a column that I guess they chose to run it online today, coming from the next print issue. It's about punching up. I'm punching all the way up. The sun. That's what I'm punching at. Jerk. Couldn't see it for 2 weeks, and you're like, hey, when you guys are miserable, when you're feeling gloomy, guess who's going to come right in your eye holes?
Jerk, son.
We got a lot to do on the program today. Coming up,
son of a bitch.
It is a son of a bitch. Got a lot to do. We will continue to put some finishing touches on Orioles season coming up a little bit later on. Our buddy Erik Kratz, former catcher, part of the Foul Territory crew. Also, our friend Chris Rose, now part of Jomboy and the Baseball Today podcast after years at MLB Network. And we will also talk Ravens Bengals. PressBox Ravens beat writer Bo Smolka will join us. That's all on the way. Whew. Today's show brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Griffin, if you don't mind.
Every time, if you're over at Live Casino Hotel Maryland, every time that Baltimore or Washington's football team score touchdowns during home games, Live Rewards members will receive $7 in free slot play if they have their Live Rewards card inserted into the slot machine, any slot machine on the floor, and be actively playing. And then you get your prize once Baltimore or Washington scores a touchdown. It's valid for home games only. So Washington's home this weekend. Maybe get yourself down there, and every time they score, every time Jane Daniels scampers in the end zone, you get $7 in free slot play. So be sure to get down to Live Casino at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLE.
Now, what happens next week? A week from this Sunday?
Well, the Ravens are home against the Commanders.
Right.
Yes, but it's a Ravens home game. So if the Ravens score a touchdown, then you get it. If the Commanders do, you do not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's got to be the home game.
Okay,
is the story.
gotcha.
The home team.
Okay.
All right, Stan. We did have. We'll look back on. You know what? Before
By the way, that catcher that I had, I knew it was close.
Yes.
Erik Haas, who played for the Brewers this year.
Might actually.
It wasn't
Really?
Erik
He played?
Kratz.
It might actually be worse. Erik Kratz.
He was a good home run hitter for the Tigers.
All right.
A.J. Hinch didn't like
Well,
him.
because he played outfield and catcher, so that
Yeah,
made
he
it
played
valuable.
left field and catch. He was not a good outfielder.
All right. You and I have not talked, obviously, since the series ended. When we do this autopsy on what happened, we're only kind of a little bit talking about what happened over the course of the two games. Because, as I said, we can be disappointed, but unfortunately we can't be terribly surprised because it's an extension of what we had seen.
saw for 2.5 months.
Correct.
Yeah.
So as we do the autopsy, and I know you asked Brandon Hyde about Adley Rutschman the other night, and Adley Rutschman seemed to allude post-game that there was an injury, and then Mike Elias shot that down yesterday and said, no, it wasn't about an injury.
Yeah.
But it's bigger than just Adley Rutschman, obviously. He's the one, probably 1A on the list of what went wrong offensively, but everything went wrong offensively. So as you do the autopsy on it, how do you try to define what happened to this team offensively over the course of the last 3 months?
Well, it's a very tricky situation that Mike Elias and his staff have, because this was a team that for the full entirety of 2023 played at an exceptionally high level, and we can say a little bit of a lucky level, and 2024 was a very opposite, outcome. There was not a lot of luck. There was an incredible amount of injuries involved, so they have to factor in what's injury, what's unexpectedly poor performance, what's unexpectedly good performance. I mean, I think Mike alluded to it yesterday in his 35 minutes of answering questions, that his focus had been helping to shore up the pitching when we had so many injuries, that he probably didn't focus on what was then. Sometimes you see a picture of what's going on now, and 2 weeks later you're working on what was going on 2 weeks ago, which was injuries to the pitching staff and making sure we got enough pitching. And the offense was playing fairly well the first, until mid-July. And by the time he only had 2 weeks to try and fix the offense, I think he knows that. that next year they got to go in with a little bit better balanced roster. I think there was some duplication in this roster.
I agree with that.
That made us very susceptible to left-handed pitching.
Particularly susceptible to left-handed pitching, no question about that.
And I don't know how you project next year that all of a sudden Cowser and Holiday are suddenly, and Mullins are suddenly going to be so much better. So to me, it's a roster construction problem as much as anything.
And that's where my and I've said it a couple times now, my biggest concern, and it's as I said before, I was never going to call for someone to get fired.
Right.
But if the Orioles had chosen, we know that they're not. They're going to keep Brandon Hyde around. If they had chosen to go that path,
Terry Francona was available.
Who knew?
Yeah.
In only specifically in the name of, hey, we have, it's gonna be this core, like this core group of players. They've decided to protect. He wasn't willing, based on every report. Mike Elias was not willing to talk about this core group of players.
Right.
They have identified them. They're going to be the guys moving forward. So if that's the case, you've got to get more out of that core group of players than what you've gotten. And it's fair if we can go one by one and you can say, well, Jackson Holiday is still very young. That's true. That can be true, but yet you put him at the major league level. Colton Cowser has shown some signs that he can be a better all-around baseball player, but they were fleeting, and we're going to hide behind him being a candidate for Rookie of the Year, which is only the case because there aren't good candidates for Rookie of the Year this year.
Correct.
If he was in the National League, he wouldn't be anywhere near the conversation for Rookie of the Year.
Fifth, yeah.
We're going to keep saying that, well, he is going to be Rookie. Well, maybe he's going to be Rookie of the Year. That's not even the betting market. Still don't seem to think that he's going to be Rookie of the Year. But even if he is, it's really just a story of there weren't good rookies in the American League this year. And we got to be honest about what Colton Cowser was for the totality of the season. He had an amazing month, and then he had some moments, enough moments.
It's a good way to describe it.
That it didn't fall off the cliff from there, that the total numbers still look redeemable at the end of the year. But he didn't look like someone that you're very comfortable with going into a 162-game season next year. Jordan Westberg, I think we're all still largely comfortable with. And offensively, we're comfortable with Gunnar Henderson, but you got to address the defense. And, he did go 0 for 7 with 4 strikeouts in the playoffs.
Yep.
When they badly needed their best player to step up a little bit, it went the exact opposite way. He was one of the biggest problems in the wild card series. That, to me, is the big issue that faces this team. And you point out, I think most of us has operated with the idea that Kobe Mayo was being given first base next year, that they're going to move on from Ryan Mountcastle, and he was going to be their first baseman. And I don't feel remotely comfortable about that at the moment. I think that they still think that Heston Kjerstad's an everyday player moving forward, but there's a core group of players
that have a lot of questions surrounding them.
And that's my bigger concern about the Orioles at the moment.
Yep.
And why, if they had made the decision they would have made, I would have said, okay, you can't fire the players. That's the way this goes. You're not going to be able to move on from this. This is the group. You got to get more out of this group.
Yep.
That's the way that it works. And that, to me, is the biggest disappointment about the way the second half went, is we all thought that the Orioles could get better with Jackson Holiday and Kobe Mayo and maybe even Heston Kjerstad before he got hurt. And it was the exact opposite. Those guys ended up being not even part of the story by the time we got to the postseason.
Correct. Yeah, it was a mixed bag. What surprises me a little bit about Brandon, and I find myself, and I want to make very clear, because sometimes in my career on the air, what I say gets misinterpreted. I'm in no way, shape, or form saying that I would have moved on from Brandon Hyde. But I found myself disagreeing with him on a lot of decisions. In other words, I'm not letting, in the 6th inning of the first game, I'm not letting Bobby Witt hit there, okay? And I'm not letting him hit the second day, even though it was an infield hit. It was hard hit up the middle. It scored the winning run. I'm just not pitching to Bobby Witt in those situations. I'm sorry.
I'm
going to go with the guy, even though he did hit well against us in the series. I'm going to bet that we can handle Vinny Pasquantini rather than Bobby Witt, who led the league in hitting, had over 100 RBIs, 30-some home runs.
I'm very 50-50 with this, which is like I hear you.
Yeah.
The first thing I come back to is they scored one run.
No, there's no question about it. We might still be playing game one,
I can't. It's really hard for me to obsess over any of these decisions because they didn't do anything.
That's funny because you go back to the Zach Britton decision that Buck Showalter always got castigated for years. Well, Buck blew that. The Oriole offense of that season, 2016, the last month of the season, it was very similar to this year's offense.
Ironically, the only guy that came through that night was the guy, Hyun-Soo Kim was the one guy that was like producing at that point for the Orioles in 2016. He was the one that was getting the job done.
But there was not much to cheer for in that regard, but I'm just not going to let Bobby Witt hit in those two circumstances.
And as I said before, I'll never be. It's to me the shtick about firing managers is I don't get involved. I don't do it with coaches. I can say that I think the results typically are what makes this like if I'm being told, hey, what decision would you make? I make it by the results. And between the way the things went in the second half for those young players and the 0-5 thing in the postseason, I could have understood that decision. I don't think that Mike Elias would have been the one to make it, but if somebody else had gone to Mike Elias and said, we're interjecting here.
You mean ownership?
Yes. Yeah. I would have.
You don't mean like Melanie Newman?
I don't think it would have been Mel. I don't think she would have been the one.
Kevin Brown.
Yeah,
no,
probably not Kevin. Well,
Kevin's pretty,
Kevin was being tough on him down. Kevin, you could hear the frustration coming out of Kevin's voice down the stretch this season. There were a lot of, particularly in the pop-ups with a runner on third base. And my God, if he had been calling the game, and maybe on the radio, I guess he was, so I didn't get to hear it, what he might have sounded like in the fifth inning when the bases were loaded in Game 2, and they went pop-up, strikeout. I can only imagine what that sounded like from Kevin Brown because
eggs frying on his forehead.
The frustration was coming out.
But to your point about whether if somebody had stepped in and said, "Hey, I don't like this manager," I would have
understood it, and I would have even been willing to say I can support it. I don't normally like the idea of ownership interference, but I could have understood. This comes back to an inherent. At some point, it's sort of who we are. And we're, as a fan base, harping on John Harbaugh's playoff issues over the years. John Harbaugh's advanced twice in the last 3 times, or the last 2 playoffs that they've had Lamar Jackson. They've at least advanced. This team hasn't won a game in the playoffs. Like, that is...
Playoffs?
Playoffs. We're talking about... They didn't diddly poo. That is damning. Like, I can't escape that. The question of how does it change moving forward? Well, the answer might just be it changes because that's baseball. That's the thing that we always talk about. That's the thing that we kept saying could happen this year. Although that was the only hope that we had for this year is that that might just be baseball. And that could be the change that happens a year from now.
I posed a question to James McCann in the aftermath. It was around. I think Valerie was there and Jake Rill. It might have been.
Okay.
The 3 of us were talking, and I said, "You've been around this game a while. You've been here for 2 years. Could you have foreseen that offense would be, after watching this club all last year and the beginning of this year, would you have?" He goes, I got to be honest, I'm not shocked by it because he said, it's baseball. He goes, that's one of the mysteries of the game, and it's one of the beauties of the game, and it's one of the cruelties of the game, but it's just baseball, because he said there's so much talent here, but again.
Yeah, and you can say the uniqueness of it. I'm not going to try to portray that Jorge Mateo getting hurt explains why.
I think it was a huge loss.
It does matter in the context of he was one of the few guys that did something different.
And he was right-handed, which they never really were able to replace. His injury combined with the season Hayes was having really is a factor that has to be somehow put into the calculus, that suddenly two of our better hitters against left-handed pitching were suddenly down and out and gone.
So let's do this exercise, Stan, because Griffin and I did this yesterday.
Oh, is this something new game you
No,
came
it's not
up
a game.
with where you
It's
have
not
the
a
rules
game.
down?
No, it's not a game.
It's not a game.
Going in, if you asked me in early July, what do the 2025 Orioles look like?
Right.
My gut would have been something along these lines. I would have said Cowser in left. I don't think they're going to move on from Mullins. After the trade deadline, I wouldn't expect them to move on from Mullins, even though, again, we know that they were trying to trade Cedric Mullins going into the deadline. But I'll leave it alone for now, and we can talk about it after that. I would assume that Jordan Westberg would be – I would put Heston Kjerstad in right. Could they still sign Anthony Santander? They could, but I've just worked under the assumption that they've held on to Heston Kjerstad for this long. At some point, he's got to play. You can't just keep holding on to him.
I'll throw one other thing into the – well, go ahead.
Okay.
You finish up your
Sure. Of course, Gunnar Henderson at short.
You don't have Mateo as
I don't. Holiday at second. Right. I've always assumed that they wanted to clear it for Kobe Mayo at first, and, of course, Adley Rutschman behind the plate. O'Hearn – is in the mix at DH, and perhaps that could be what they envision for Mayo if they don't want to move on from Ryan Mountcastle, is that it's a platoon of he and Ryan O'Hearn at DH, or a platoon of Mountcastle, and I don't know what that might look like if Mountcastle is not
How about
dealt.
if I throw out one other factor here at first base? Suppose they are fortunate enough to sign Santander, and Mayo is deemed not ready out of spring training.
It's
That's Santander
first.
And O'Hearn and maybe even a little bit of Kjerstad are at first base some.
Okay, all right. I can look. This is a rough expectation to me of what they look like. So when we say they've got to get better offensively, they've got to get different offensively. Well, that's got to come from somewhere. So in your mind, where is it that perhaps you already, alluded to one thing?
I think they get somebody like an Eloy Jimenez, but not Eloy Jimenez.
Right.
Somebody like Mark Canha, but not Mark Canha. They need a veteran bopper that's a right-handed hitter in this lineup that is a force. Kind of like what the Astros thought they were getting with Jose Abreu.
I guess I'll ask it this way. Is a bopper the right way to go for a right-handed bat, given that you're not moving the wall? Is it better that your right-handed bats be more complete types of hitters, more Jordan Westberg types?
Well, I mentioned Mark Canha.
Yeah.
Mark Canha is past his prime. I don't want – but somebody that gives you professional at-bats from the right-hand side. He doesn't have to be – a home run bopper, but he's got to be, and I don't know who that player is this second.
Right. No, I'd have to look over who is available to see who that might be as well. Because I do agree, they clearly need at least one right-handed bat, particularly considering Santander, if he's gone.
I'm just going to throw one name out, and I doubt that they'll go this way, but we're penciling Westberg in at third. And we're penciling in Holiday at second. Suppose they penciled in Westberg at second, and instead of re-signing Santander, they got Willie Adames as the third baseman.
And they tried to move Holiday into the outfield?
And make Holiday almost like what Tony Phillips was 20 years ago, a little bit of a Jurickson Profar. Use his versatility as a real asset and a weapon, that he can play outfield, he could play shortstop to back up, Henderson. It's just a thought.
I don't hate it in theory. With the flip side being that we always talk about how when somebody's still trying to adjust to the major leagues as a hitter, you tend to want to have them just playing a position and not trying to.
There's no question that we tend as non-experts to think that's going to throw him off. It might actually allow him to relax as a hitter because he's constantly kind of thinking what he's got to do elsewhere. So he doesn't have time to just dwell on I expect him to be a better hitter next year, but I don't know how he's going to improve markedly against left-handed pitching next year. So I would expect that Mateo is going to play a good bit against left-handed pitching.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
Are you?
But it's just a thought as to how to skin the cat because Adames is going to command. What do you think he makes next year, Griffin?
I think he's going to
$25 million a year.
He's still 29, so
Yeah.
he's going to want to be a shortstop. So I think that's also like something that you have to.
We've seen guys. He's going
to take a pay cut if he moves to third base.
No, I'm not asking him to take the pay cut. I'm talking about plugging in the dollars and knowing he's going to
Well, but can we have the other conversation, which is if you're signing Willy Adames, why wouldn't he be your shortstop? Because your shortstop is not a good shortstop.
That's
I think he would get
point.
20, 25. I think that's.
I just love his fire, but again, I have not looked at the free agent market in its totality yet.
Yeah, and I'm
but
focusing.
There are ways that would not even have been remotely in the ballpark of talking about the last 5 years under the Angelos regime, and given John's constraints. I just think there's some reason to be optimistic that they can do a couple things that are bigger than we think right now.
So let me ask two. One, are you as confident as I am that they're still going to stick around? I just think that the world in which you want to commit to Colton Cowser as your center fielder, I'm not ready for that. I did not see enough for me to have the level of confidence that he can go out and be your center fielder every day and make plans around it.
Yeah. No, I don't think that I don't think they're ready to move off of Mullins, but I don't see them extending Mullins.
I tend to agree with that as well, that I think it's a one-year thing. Now, again, some of that is like their hopes that Enrique Bradfield, but I don't.
Yeah, it buys them the time for Bradfield, Judd Fabian, and even Honeycutt to see where they are before you make a decision. And that's somewhat unfair to Mullins because what's he now? 31 going into next year, 32.
Right. I just don't think they're ready to do it. And
no, I don't think they are either. I think
he's 30 right now. He'll be 31. Actually, just turned 30, so he won't be 31 until
the end of next season.
Yeah.
I think a one-year deal at a fair market value is the way to go with Cedric Mullins because he can be. He wouldn't be happy with it, but if somehow that was the position you upgraded and he became a platoon and center or a bench player extraordinaire, I think he would tolerate it and do the best he could. I think he's a real pros pro, Cedric.
The other group of players, the young guys,
yeah.
Is there anywhere, you just talked about the idea of them spending money. Is there any world in which you could see them maybe not being as committed to one of this group of players and that somebody from this group could still be a trade asset if you're going to spend money somewhere?
It's hard to imagine Mayo being traded simply because
you don't have right-handed bats.
He doesn't have a value that other teams are going to say, hey, we're ready. Now, a team like the Angels could say that because they're not going anywhere next year. But I don't know that there's too many Angels that I'm thinking of.
Well, the White Sox don't have any good players anymore.
Yeah.
Well, unless you want to get back in the Dylan Cease market. Or not Dylan Cease, Garrett Crochet market.
Right.
And that, by the way, it might be interesting. There was reason to not be in the Garrett Crochet market this year because you didn't think he could help you in the playoffs. But another year and how many more innings you could put on that arm, maybe you do revisit the Garrett Crochet market because at the moment you have Zach Eflin at the top of your rotation going into 2025.
Well, I've got Grayson at the top.
Okay.
And Eflin and Kramer.
But I would say the same thing. Like, I think those guys are.
I elicited a response on two players yesterday. They still have very serious expectations that they'll get something more positive than Cole Irvin out of Trevor Rogers, okay? They are working on some things with him. They feel that they can get his velocity back up a couple ticks, and they're very high. Brandon Hyde said, it was interesting. I asked him, I said, can you tell me 3 players? And in my mind, I was going, who would be 1, 2, and 3? And I said, Mayo, Holiday, Povich. And his number 1 was, he came out of his mouth, was, I loved what Povich did the last month of the season, you know. And then he said Holiday's young player and Mayo, you know. Mayo was, I got to be honest, taking into all the considerations of a young player, he was very disappointing.
Yeah,
he was. What did he get, about 60 at-bats maybe?
And they weren't good.
No, they were not good.
They weren't good. And I'll pull up exactly what the number was.
60 at-bats we could have had from me or you.
It sounds like you don't think that they need to be targeting a true number one type of starter. It sounds like you're saying you're comfortable with Grayson and Eflin at the top of the rotation.
I think they will. I think they will sign a pitcher, be it Kikuchi, someone who is capable, very capable of being a really solid starter. Give you 180 innings.
By the way, it was only 41 at bats for Kobe Mayo.
Okay, good.
Still.
Good.
Yeah.
That was 20 other at bats we had from somebody else that got made out.
Yes.
I'm expecting another number two pitcher. I don't think we're going to spend $35 million on a Corbin Burns. I think we're going to get somebody that makes maybe $3-4 million more than Eflin on a 2 or 3 year contract.
Well, and I don't think that they would be in the market to sign one of those pitchers. I do think that the trade market between the Mariners and the number of pitchers they have with still desperately needing offense,
right.
desperately needing offense.
But are the Orioles a team you look at and say, right now, boy, we really want Colton Cowser. We'll give you Logan Gilbert. I don't see anybody giving us a really great pitcher in a 1-for-1 trade. Now, if it's a 5-6 player trade,
right,
and Cano is part of it, and Mountcastle's part of it,
yep,
yeah, maybe we're talking that,
Oh, I to me that's the story, and I think that Mountcastle's part of any of this conversation, and I think that there are teams that would look and value Ryan Mount because I'm just so confident.
I'd love to know the team that would really watch all of his at bats and value him, other than a really good defensive first baseman that might hit left-handed pitching, but
I think, it can hit left-handed pitching, but I think it's a step beyond that. Which
left-handed pitching.
I think that there is a common thought around baseball circles that Ryan Mountcastle was so deeply impacted by the wall that get him somewhere where he's not dealing with that.
Well, that would be a great thing if they can convince.
And I'm not trying to suggest that you can get, Logan Gilbert for Ryan Mountcastle.
Right,
you can't. That math is never going to math.
Right.
But to say you are desperate offensively, and they can give you.
I think a Mountcastle for Reed Detmer's trade makes a huge amount of sense for both teams. The Orioles are not going to be able to sell him high. Detmer's still his strikeout numbers when he came up in the major leagues. Mm-hmm. He only pitched probably 25 innings. But his strikeout numbers are really impressive. There's a live arm there that you would like to think with the wall and with, so that would be something I would be very interested in.
We felt the same way about Cole Irvin, kind of, didn't we? Like, I guess Detmer's arm is a little more live.
Detmer's arm is much liver than Cole Irvin. And I stand here as somebody that liked the Cole Irvin trade when we made it,
Look, I'm not saying they can't make a trade like that or that they won't make a trade like that. I still find myself saying, again, if the goal is to win a World Series, I'm a little shaky on Grayson Rodriguez and Zach Eflin being your top two pitchers. I'm just a little unnerved by that. I would have liked to have seen a lot more from Grayson Rodriguez this season to have that confidence going into next year that he's ready to be that guy. And that's not his fault that he got hurt. Like, I can't do anything about that. But it's hard for me to have that level of confidence. Look, if you get Kyle Bradish back next, August, and he pitches the way that we've seen Kyle Bradish pitch, that could absolutely factor into that. But again, the plan around it is that is tough for me to make that plan that, hey, we don't need to do that because we're going to get one of those types of guys back. I can't operate around that way.
Justin Verlander, what do you think about a 1-year return to Detroit for him next year?
That'd be interesting. I mean, hasn't he kind of made it seem, though, that, like, if he was going to go somewhere, he wanted to come back east? Like, he wanted to be back on this,
I don't know.
I thought
I
that
haven't
was
heard that much. I
thought
know
that
he
was-
says he's not retiring.
I
He
thought
wants
that
to
was what
pitch.
the reporting had been, is that like, hey, if he was going to go somewhere else, he'd kind of like to do it closer to home.
Yeah.
Like,
Where's home now for him? I don't know.
that's a good question
Yeah,
too,
I
because
don't
we know he's from Virginia, but I don't know where he's.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, Detroit's in the Eastern time zone, so
they're in the Eastern time zone. That's
close
a good
enough.
point. And you would think with like a very famous wife that he probably would have been living in California. Like, it would seem.
Well, she's put her career not on hold, but I mean, she makes money so easily.
Yeah, that she doesn't need to be
If
there.
I look like that, I'd make money easily.
That's a great
too.
point,
I wouldn't
too.
be here on
That's a
Friday
great
mornings.
point. That's a great.
If
No,
only I looked like her.
I thought you would make the commitment that you would still be here no matter what. Gosh,
I'd need my. If I look like her, I'd need my beauty rest.
Josh still hops on post-game shows. Look at you. You won't even come in to do a Friday show. Jerk. Gosh.
Josh, that Josh Charles.
Yeah, right.
Oh, is he bummed?
Oh.
He was
Oh,
bummed, and I'm sure Rocco was bummed
Yeah,
too.
I felt bad because I was doing the radio post-game on Wednesday night. I looked down and I had about 75 texts from Josh, and I felt terrible because I wasn't able to reply to him. But yeah, I mean, I
mean, would
understand
you
it.
have any interest in him in Baltimore, Verlander, for 1 year?
I would interest, yes,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, again, are you doing that to not do something? This is
No, I'm just.
that's the real issue that I still have to. We have to learn that about this ownership group, right? Like, when I think that it's reasonable to expect that there will be money spent that wasn't spent before. But what is that money? Hey, we can do this with Verlander, but that means we're not doing, X, Y, or Z. Well, then maybe I don't feel as good about Verlander. I just don't know enough yet to know how much money they're willing to spend. And maybe the argument is that's the type of move they are willing to make.
Mm-hmm.
We'll make plenty. You want to make short-term deals? By all means.
Yep.
We'll give you a bunch of money in short-term bursts. We're not interested in,
Here's the top 10 starting pitchers, free agent pitchers. Corbin Burns is listed as number 1.
Sure.
I think he'll end up with the Mets. Blake Snell has an option. I think he's represented by Boris, isn't he?
I believe he is.
I think he's going to opt out of his contract with the Giants. I think he'll think he can get more, and he probably can. Max Fried is he's an interesting guy. He's higher in the, but I think the Orioles could be in play for him. The number 4 starting pitcher on the top 10 is Jack Flaherty. He put up a big year this year.
Really remarkable season.
Yeah, 194 strikeouts in 162 innings. Where was that guy last
I
year?
still can't see the Orioles.
Nathan Eovaldi.
Let's
I
get Charlie
really,
Morton.
as much as I like him, to me he's a breakdown ready to happen. Here's the guy I'd be interested in. Number 6, Sean Manaea. Okay, 12-5 this year with the Mets, 3.29 ERA, 183 strikeouts. 61 walks. The walks are a little high, but the whip overall is 106. I like him a lot. 3 years, $60 million.
I like
that.
I like Sean Manaea. He doesn't tick the box of he immediately becomes your number 1 starter,
Right.
But I do like Sean Manaea a lot.
Here's the guy, number 7. This is a guy I think had this ownership been in place, they would have probably signed him 2 years ago. Is Michael Wacha. 13-8, 3.28.
He's really good.
He's not as good as Reagan's, not as good as Lugo,
Yep.
but he's real good.
Yep.
Severino is number 8, 11-7. I don't really have a tremendous interest in him. Number 9, this is another guy I have interest in, is Yusei Kikuchi.
Sure.
Another left-handed starter.
Sure.
And number 10 is Shane Bieber. I'd have to know how he's coming along, but it's hard to envision giving a huge contract.
So that list
for a
doesn't
Tommy
have
John.
this Japanese pitcher that we just learned is going to be posted.
I don't know about
Tomoyuki Sugano
Well done.
is
Name's
I don't
too
know.
hard to. I
don't-
always use the
I
Tom
don't-
Matty,
yeah.
the Tom Matty litmus test. Could he pronounce his name?
This is from Jeff Passan. Right-hander Tomoyuki Sugano, the most successful Japanese pitcher of his generation, to have spent his whole career in Nippon professional baseball, will come to Major League Baseball as international free agent this winter, sources told ESPN. Sugano, who turns 35 in a week,
Wow.
is in the midst of a renaissance season that has seen him post a 1.67 ERA over 24 starts for the Central League champion Yomiuri Giants.
There's the key. 24 starts. Major league pitchers,
This is gonna-
they want to get 30,
100%.
32, 33 starts
100%.
from.
But I don't know. I this is where I have to plead ignorance. I don't know how different that is than Ohtani or Yamamoto or.
Those guys start basically once a week. That's a big difference over there. Yeah.
He's a 2-time winner of the Sawamura Award, the equivalent of the Cy Young, 2-time Central League MVP, and 4-time ERA champion.
Yamamoto had a 1.21 ERA in his last year in Japan.
That's even better.
How many starts did he make?
He made
27,
23.
23.
So it seems like
And he did break
that's
down.
the threshold.
and it does seem like, for what it's worth, it hasn't really been the impediment for these guys in
To get
coming.
some decent money.
Not only to get decent money, but to find success.
Right.
Like it seems like it hasn't prevented them from being able to transition
But
to.
Yamamoto missed about 2 months.
He did. That's true. That's fair.
And is it fair to say that had he been starting like every Friday night for the Dodgers,
Maybe, right?
maybe he'd be healthy.
Maybe. And the Dodgers are more a team that likes to use 6 starters.
Yeah.
I don't know. But that's the one more name that gets thrown into the list now, as we found out today that he will be posted. I still think that I would be in the market for a legitimate top of the rotation pitcher, whether that's, to your point, signing one of the next group of guys that's not Corbin Burns, or whether that to me still is in the trade market.
Let's just say it was Kikuchi.
Mm-hmm.
They gave him 3 years and $54 million, and they got Yusei Kikuchi. And your rotation was Rodriguez, Eflin, Kikuchi, Kramer, Povich, Suarez, whoever for that fifth Rogers. I'd be pretty good to go with that.
With still the hopes of getting a Bradish back at some point in that conversation.
Yeah.
I have wondered aloud if they would be trying to buy low on John Means, like to say, let's do this. You're not going to like what else is out there. Let's have this conversation.
I think that's entirely possible.
It's sort of the Brandon Woodruff thing, except that Brandon Woodruff had some more success, hadn't had as many injuries as John Means has had. So, but it's the similar concept of, look, man, we're going to try to do right by you. We'll give you something. I've wondered if they might explore that.
I ultimately think Mike Elias is a little more heartless than that.
That might be true.
I don't mean it in a really
no.
heartless, a nasty way. I just don't think that that's going to happen, but I could certainly see it happening. I know that's talking out of both sides of my mouth, but that's never stopped me before.
I'm in the belief that they need that, and yes, they need more. They need right-handed bats that do different things. They need right-handed bats. What do you make about the ire once the Brandon Hyde thing was taken care of? The ire then moved to the
hitting coaches.
Exactly right.
I honestly don't. I've never met the two hitting coaches in their 3 years here. It's possible, that they would go back to sort of a somewhat more conventional. They tried this, but they may. I don't know what their thinking is. I don't know. I do know that he was exceedingly happy with the pitching coach.
Okay.
Brandon Hyde.
Okay.
Thought that he, under the he kind of didn't say. He didn't start with the term under the circumstances, but he further
especially given everything
filled in the blanks. He said, with everything that went on, I think he did a fantastic job. And I talked to Cade Povich about him, and he feels that they're really on the same page, and that he's got him wired as to what they need to work on. I'm expecting him to be a pretty important part of this rotation.
Boy, do I hope that's true. And yes, you certainly saw in moments what Cade Povich was capable of.
I warn you on one thing, and this started our conversation about a month ago. I mean, about 20 minutes ago, is I was surprised that Brandon Hyde really thought that last week of the season, he kind of fell for what Buck Showalter always reminded us of, not to get too hung up on what happens in February and March, meaning spring training, and September. And Brandon was saying, I thought maybe that last week, we went up and played the Yankees, who had a 6-game lead.
Right.
You think they were firing on all
and
cylinders?
A Twins team that was done.
And the Twins team that was cooked.
That was done.
So we won 5 out of 6. Wahoo.
Yep. Yep, 100%.
And the one game we lost was the night that they faced a real pitcher, which Garrett Cole, who they didn't score a run against.
Didn't even eke anything that looked like it was going to be productive. Yeah. All right, join us for the 36th Annual Maritime Magic, the best annual benefit on the Baltimore waterfront, celebrating and supporting the Living Classrooms Foundation. It's tonight, Friday, October 4th, 6 to 10 p.m. Enjoy a night of delicious food and drinks from Baltimore's top restaurants and caterers, plus live music by the Motet. Dress in festive casual attire and soak in the stunning views of the Baltimore Harbor from the Frederick Douglass Isaac Myers Maritime Park and Museum. Tickets and sponsorships are available. livingclassrooms.org/maritime-magic. When we come back in, we will switch gears for a minute. We're going to talk some Ravens. Bo Smolka joins us every Friday, PressBox Ravens beat writer. That's next, Glenn Clark Radio.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. Learn more at DriveEasyMD.com.
PressBox's Project Game Day is the place to be after every game this season. Join Glenn Clark, Rita Hubbard, Super Bowl 35 champion Femi Ayanbadejo, and our cast of regulars as they break down what happened, why it mattered, and what it means moving forward. You can watch the show at PressBoxOnline.com/gameday or PressBox's Facebook and YouTube pages. Project Game Day is brought to you by the Green Turtle Sportsbook in Towson and Canton, Easy Pass, and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. So join us for Project Game Day after every game day this football season at PressBoxOnline.com/gameday.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their legendary fat, delicious, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. It's crab season, so sit back and crack some crabs while watching the Birds pursue another divisional title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday night, the Costas Inn offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30. So head on down to the Costas Inn today at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at CostasInn.com.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Brace yourselves for an unparalleled in-person betting experience at the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbook and Bars in Canton and Towson. Experience the thrill of live betting with Baltimore's only state-of-the-art Vegas viewing TV experience. Choose between our on-site tellers or the convenience of our self-bet kiosks to place your bets. Gather your betting buddies and head over to the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks today. Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton. The ultimate destination for game day excitement, great food, and live in-person betting. Must be 21. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Go to mdgamblinghelp.org.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
Back in here as we continue along on a Friday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Stan, I got bad news. I mean,
Adamas signed somewhere else?
No. I know I know one thing that can lift your spirits after the Orioles get eliminated. It's Fat Bear Week. It's fat. I know that's the thing that you look forward to every year is the start of Fat Bear Week. But unfortunately, Fat Bear Week actually had to be delayed this year. Now,
it turned out I went to my cousin John Matz, who's an allergist. I happen to be allergic to Fat Bear.
No.
After all these years.
No.
Yeah.
Fat Bear Week had to be delayed this year. It was supposed to start on Monday. They had to push it back.
I'm speechless.
They had to do a new bracket.
You know how you said, God, damn that
Right.
sun.
Right.
I feel the same way
Well,
with Fat Bear
you're
Week.
really going to feel this. You know why they had to delay the start of Fat Bear Week?
Because of the allergy I have to her?
No. One of the bears killed one of the other bears.
Oh, fat bears are fat bears?
They're actual fat bears.
Oh, I didn't know
It's a celebration of brown bears.
I thought it was
is what
like
Fat
a bear.
Week
I thought it
is.
was a berry.
No,
off of a
fat bears.
I'm allergic to fat berries.
Oh, you're allergic to fat berries. I get it. No. Unfortunately, on Monday, just as they were getting ready to launch Fat Bear Week, they had a live webcam set up in the Katmai National Park and Preserve in Alaska.
And they killed one of the bears.
And that webcam caught one of the bears killing one of the other bears.
Oh, my God.
What?
Yeah. It was a lucky slash,
Yeah.
right? Wasn't it? Described sort of.
I don't. You might be right. I don't know. This was the quote that was sent to NPR. The park said, "National parks like Katmai protect not only the wonders of nature, but also the harsh realities. Each bear seen on the webcams is competing with others to survive," unquote. They did put out the new bracket for Fat Bear Week, so you can go vote on your favorite fat bears right now. But a little bit awkward as they were getting ready to celebrate the fat bears and instead got a live bear murder that happened on the webcam. Little bit awkward the way that worked out. All right. Hey, the CIAA tournament returns to Baltimore next year, 2025, late February to early March, back at CFG Bank Arena, and there's still a couple of days for you to take advantage of $75 off your week-long pass for the CIAA men's and women's basketball tournaments. Use the promo code SCHOOL75, CIAAtournament.org, to save $75 on the entire week of both the men's and women's CIAA tournaments at CFG Bank Arena. Ravens Bengals this Sunday out in Cincinnati. Joining us now to preview that, he is our PressBox Ravens beat writer, Bo Smolka, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Bo, it's Glenn and Stan. It's good to catch up. Thank you for taking the time for us, as always.
You're welcome. Good morning.
Bo, Stan and I talked before the show. I would think that doing anything other than having the exact same game plan that you had last week against the Buffalo Bills going into this week would be borderline coaching malpractice. Is there any reason to think that the Ravens don't say, yeah, this is working, let's keep doing it?
I think absolutely they should keep doing it, particularly this week when the Bengals are a little bit banged up front with Sheldon Rankins hurt on the defensive line. Their running defense has been susceptible, and the Ravens just shouldn't outsmart themselves and get too cute, which is what the Bills did, right? The Bills had the momentum in that game. They looked like that comeback was going to happen, or at least was on its way to happening. And then they got cute with this direct snap play, and it turned into a fumble. The Ravens got the ball, and that was basically the end of the game. The Bills just got too cute. And I think the risk for the Ravens is just don't get too cute. You know what you do. You know what you do well, and you're playing against a team that doesn't oppose what you do well. So, yes, I absolutely think this should be the formula. Now, Todd Monken's going to say we got to keep them honest. They're take a shot here or there, but I think it should be no-nonsense smash mouth is the way to win.
What do we make of what the offensive line? If Andrew Voorhees is back this week, do they go back to Andrew Voorhees, or do they say, hey, this worked last week? At least it would seem to me like there shouldn't be much of a question about who the right tackle should be moving forward.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they stay with what they had last week, and even if Voorhees is back, and it wouldn't surprise me if McCary is still there at left guard. And, you know, we've talked about McCary over the years. He's just such a value to this team in a way that's kind of hard to measure, because not every team has a guy that you can do that. He's at right tackle. Oh, shoot, our left guard's hurt. Patrick, you go play there. Linderbaum gets hurt. Oh, shoot, McCary, you go play there. I mean, that's just unusual, and he's able to do it. And obviously he stepped in there. And I can tell you from the summer watching them, I don't remember him hardly. I mean, John said they took some snaps at left guard. I don't remember seeing a lot of them, but he's just so valuable how they can throw him in there wherever he's needed. And I thought he played pretty well. I think, and again, if Voorhees is quote back, but he's probably not 100%. He's been limited to an extent. I think they'll probably stay with McCary there. To your point too, I think Rosengarten has been steadily improving, even in that. Even he had that struggle early against Kansas City, and then later in the Raiders game, I thought he started to look pretty good, and I think he's evolving into a better player, which is what they expected. So I wouldn't be surprised to see McCary start again at left guard and have that same lineup we saw last week.
Bo, one of the things I sort of observed last week, we all question whether Lamar can throw the deep ball, and we know that there's supposedly a necessity to show that. But he's really good in intermediate throws. Am I onto something that they may be just saying, let's keep that in the back pocket for a while, the deep throws, and just use more intermediate throws?
I mean, it's always been what he's good at, which is why he and Mark Andrews have been so good for so long, because he tends to Andrews, and it's funny we can talk about him, but he for years he's gotten open where Jackson likes to throw the ball. The touchdown pass to Justice Hill was a perfectly thrown ball, and that wasn't 20 yards. That was not so deep, but I think they want a deep shot here or there.
Yep.
Because it's going to open up the defense. The defense, if they know you might take one, then those safeties have to play back a little bit. If they're playing back a little bit, if the defense stretches just a little enough, then that opens up more for Derrick Henry, for example, to get shoulders squared and moving forward. And we saw what he did. He literally knocked the Bills safety out of the game when he tried to tackle him. I think the deep shots are advantageous for that reason. It stretches the defense and forces them to kind of play all three levels, and that opens up the running game. But Jackson, intermediate throws have always been his best. And so I think they will continue to do that. And I think they'll continue to use Justice Hill as a back, as a receiver, which has really become a weapon.
He is PressBox Ravens beat writer Bo Smolka. He's with us here on GCR. Bo, it's sort of reported in a word salad type of way, but Ian Rappaport of NFL Network says that Davante Adams wants to be a New York Jet. But this list of teams, the New Orleans Saints, Pittsburgh Steelers, Buffalo Bills, Dallas Cowboys, San Francisco 49ers, and Baltimore Ravens, are among the teams that have either inquired about Davante Adams or are places where Adams would be happy landing. So we don't really know which one of those sides is true based on the report, whether it's that the Ravens have poked around about Davante Adams or Davante Adams' camp has made it known that they would be okay with going to Baltimore. But this is the way it goes. When a well-known wide receiver is apparently available, everybody in this city is talking about it. What do you make of the idea that the Ravens would consider being in the Davante Adams market versus, hey, this thing that they're doing is working, maybe it's not a good idea to rock the boat?
I mean, first of all, I think most players would want to play for a team that looks like they're going to be good. And other than the 0-2 start, this team, the last couple of weeks, looks like it's back on track and could be good. Having said that, they could lose Sunday, and then suddenly people are panicking again. But the bottom line is, I think I'm wondering. It would surprise me if he ends up here.
Yeah.
In the sense that, one, they've said, they've invested in Flowers. I mean, they haven't invested. They drafted Flowers. They know who Flowers is. They know they like what they have in him. They paid Bateman, not a huge contract, but they paid him to be that guy. But look how their team is playing. I mean, look what they're doing. They're running over people, and Bateman's getting 1 or 2 looks a game. Flowers is getting a few looks a game. So what if you bring Adams in? What is his workload looking like, and what are you giving up to get that? And is it worth it? I still think Bateman is going to have a game where he makes a difference. I think Flowers definitely will have games where he makes a difference. I think Mark Andrews will too. But those guys, I mean, as it is now, those guys aren't getting the ball much. And they're winning a different way. So giving up what you'd have to give up to get Adams, what is he giving you, or what are you using him for at that cost? And I don't see it working. I mean, I just don't think I don't think it would be a priority.
I tend to agree with that.
I do too.
I always tend to believe that if it's a prominent wide receiver, they probably won't end up in Baltimore. That's just sort of the way that I operate. But I think the point might even be that, hey, right now you're struggling to get it to the guys you have. I certainly agree with that way of thinking.
And when you look at, if you're Davante Adams and you look and say, okay, that'd be cool to play for Baltimore, but he's a guy that could. I mean, first of all, they played against, but he's a guy that could look at the Ravens' offense and say, Bateman got what, 2 targets?
Right. How am I getting the ball? Right.
Yeah. How am I getting the ball? How often am I getting the ball there?
And that has something to do with what we just talked about the deep ball. That's not really his strength. It's not that the receivers aren't necessarily open. It's Lamar's ability to put the ball where you want it, deep.
Yeah,
I don't
in
see
point
a
of
fit.
fact, they're going to, if things are going well for them, they're not throwing deep balls very often.
Yep, I agree.
Bo, the one area that I thought they might be in the market before the season was still the edge rush. And I think I want to just have a moment of clarity here, and I'm not trying to suggest that they wouldn't still consider something or that they don't. I don't know what they think Erik Ngakoue could still be at this point moving forward. But not just the heroic effort that Kyle Van Noy has put in. It is utterly insane what Kyle Van Noy has done for 3 weeks since fracturing his orbital bone. He was named AFC Defensive Player of the Month this week. But I really am encouraged by the play of both David Ojabo and Odafe Owe in particular. Not that they are stars or not that either of those guys is Terrell Suggs, but that this group, the whole of this group, is good enough for the Baltimore Ravens moving forward to win with.
I mean, I think they are if they're healthy. I mean, that's always the question with them. And first on Van Noy, I mean, Van Noy is defying all logic with the way he's played at his age to become just having the best 2 seasons of his career, the most 2 productive seasons of his career at 32, 33 years old. I mean, he's just been an absolute wrecking ball, which is so unusual for, at that age to do what he's doing is incredible. And on that play, if you watch the strip sack play with Josh Allen, he made the entire play because he's the one that when they made the direct snap, he's the one that got pressure right away. No one blocked him, and he kind of forced the timing of that whole play off by, I forget who got the direct snap, but he forced the whole play off by interrupting that snap or the pitch to Allen. Then once Allen gets the ball, Van Noy stops on a dime, turns, and does this like Superman flying dive and got a hand on Allen to punch the ball, to get the ball out, and then Hamilton recovers. It was an incredible play.
I've done a deep analytical dive into Van Noy, and you don't want to give him bad medical.
Yeah, that's
help.
What it pissed off. Everything what happened in Kansas City.
It's an unbelievable trend.
Yeah, so he's been amazing. Ojabo, Owe, we talked about Owe before. I thought Owe was one of the top 2 or 3 players in training camp, and the question was, will it show up when they're allowed to hit, and when everyone's playing full speed, and when you're playing against top edge rush offensive tackles on the other teams? And so far, it has, and so that's encouraging. And Ojabo too. And the same thing with Ojabo. We always wondered about his health. Can he stay on the field? He's had a couple plays every game where he has made an impact, and it's not always been a sack, but he's flushed a quarterback out or he's forced a bad incompletion or whatever it might be. So they're getting production from him too. But again, I'll say it, Van Noy is 33, and it's a 17-game season. And John Harbaugh said this week they will probably monitor and kind of limit his workload during practice during the week, and you don't want him on the field too much in October and then not have him in January. They're going to play smart with that. And then, but if those guys, if they lose one of those 3, there's still question what's behind them. You mentioned they brought in Erik Ngakoue, which I was a little surprised about. It's a low risk move. He comes to the practice squad. He can get back in shape. But it didn't feel like a real good fit when he was here before.
Yeah.
But he's a Maryland guy, and he was around, and he's a proven guy. And like I said, it didn't cost anything really to have him here. So he does give them that. And it would be very Raven if someone got hurt and he just shows up and starts playing great, because he kind of just fell in their lap right here. But it did surprise me at first, but I don't think it's a bad move to have a guy like that on campus, as John Harbaugh says, to be available if something happens. But those first 3 you mentioned, Van Noy and Owe and Ojabo, have been really, really good.
No question about it. All right, at B Smolka is how you follow him on Twitter. PressBoxOnline.com is where you see his stuff. And if you still haven't picked up this print issue of PressBox, it's available for the better part of another couple of weeks, so make sure you go get it at your neighborhood Royal Farms with his cover story all about Kyle Hamilton. Bo Smolka, appreciate you, sir. We'll talk to you again next Friday.
All right, you bet. Thank you.
Thanks, Bo.
Take care.
PressBox Ravens beat writer Bo Smolka with us here on
By the way,
GCR.
I'm not saying not to run out and try and get it, but if you want to read it, your best bet at this point in time might be to go to PressBoxOnline.com.
You're saying it might not be available.
It's sparse
It
out
moved.
there. Yeah,
It
it
moved
moved out
this
of the
week.
street boxes.
All right. Well, you can definitely read it at PressBoxOnline.com. There's no question about that. And if you see it while you're at your neighborhood Royal Farms, then go ahead and snag it. Maybe you could even sell it on the market. Maybe that's how popular it is that you could say, hey.
I had to pay $12 to get a copy.
Whew, that is quite the markup. That was more than people were paying to get
myself.
More than people were paying to get
myself.
into the baseball
Yeah,
games this week.
I
see.
paid myself.
Yeah, right. Correct. All right, hour number 1 of today's show is in the books.
Do I have to do hour number 2?
I mean, you don't have to. I'm not. I can. You're Stan the Fan. You're the chief grand.
But I look like
Justin
Justin Verlander's wife.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, you shouldn't be here to begin with.
Yeah.
Project Game Day does return. We were just talking about Ravens Bengals. Following Sunday's game, come hang out with us. PressBoxOnline.com/game day. As soon as the game ends, go right there. Myself, Rita, Super Bowl champ Femi Imbedejo, KZ, Andrew Stecca, Josh Charles, the whole crew. We'll be hanging out with you, just talking through everything following Ravens Bengals this Sunday. PressBoxOnline.com/game day. It's all brought to you by the Maryland 5-Star as well as BetYard AI, Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton, 1-800-GAMBLER, and Easy Pass. Into hour number 2, we continue to sort of do the autopsy on what happened to the Baltimore Orioles in 2024. Always appreciate our next guest's perspective. I'm a fan. I enjoy his work. You can see him on Foul Territory. His former MLB catcher, Mr. Erik Kratz, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Erik, it's Glenn and Stan here in Baltimore. It's great to catch up, man. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning.
Thanks for having me on. The autopsy, that sounds, sounds terrible.
I mean, you were paying attention, though. It got bad. It got really bad, man. Erik, I think that's the thing that we're still struggling to try to definitively answer. If you and I had talked in July and you had said, Glenn, I saw the future. The Orioles aren't going to be able to make a playoff run because the pitching injuries are going to catch up to them, and they're just not going to have enough to get it done. I would have said, yeah, you know what? I get it. That sounds probably about right. But if you had said then, hey, here's the thing, the Orioles are just going to stop scoring runs. Like the offense is just going to go in the tank in the second half of the season into the playoffs, I would have thought that was crazy. How do you make sense of what happened to this Orioles offense in the second half and obviously into the postseason?
I mean, you guys don't have a long enough show.
Yeah.
But all I can say is nobody saw this coming. In this sense, you said autopsy. They were dying for a long time.
Yep.
And you don't do an autopsy when it's natural causes. But to me, if I were to choose the natural cause of death here, I don't want to say youth, but I want to say there is a value to having guys. Look at what James McCann did down the stretch for the team.
Yep.
James McCann stepped up behind a dish and started hitting dingers. Am I saying you get 9 James McCanns and you go and win a World Series? No. Am I saying that you can figure out how to mitigate a loss of Grayson Rodriguez, Kyle Bradish, Tyler Wells? I know I'm missing some guys. Means, no, you can't mitigate that. But to me, you can't be mad at the front office because they went out and got pieces that helped them in the not just helped them, were elite in the 2 games that they played in the postseason. That's all you needed. So to say the offense didn't show up, I would have never believed you. I would have never believed that Devin Williams would have given up the home run to
fair too,
Lonzo
right?
last.
Yeah.
And that's the postseason conundrum. And the only thing I can say is maybe there were some cases where aggressiveness would have played, where passiveness plays in the regular season. But other than that, we're nitpicking. They just didn't score runs, and that is wild and crazy to me.
I mean, Eric, the three veteran kind of four veterans were Santander, Hayes, Mullins, and Mountcastle. They're not kids anymore.
Nope.
And three of the four of them really had pretty bad seasons, and especially the first half, and that seemed, combined with the injuries, to throw off the whole – it put a monkey wrench into everything.
But did it really put a monkey wrench in? They made the playoffs. They didn't get the first round bye. I get that. But, who showed up in the playoffs from the offensive standpoint?
Mullins.
Nobody.
Cedric Mullins.
Yeah.
You're going to – I think, we're really picking, small things. Ryan O'Hearn had a walk in the playoffs. He's going to be gone next year. Look, these young guys, Gunnar and Adley and now Jordan Westberg, they have experience. And having experience in the postseason helps. But it doesn't mean that they're not good players. It doesn't mean this offense, yesterday my partner on the show said, well, they should have gone out and gotten a bat. And I was like, really? Who were you going to go put in this lineup that you were like, whoa, this is the guy that's putting the – no, everybody said they needed another elite starting pitcher, and everybody wants to trade their prospects. I think trading your prospects could get you solid pieces, but what happened to the offense had nothing to do with that Mountcastle and Mullins had bad seasons, or Santander was the second best hitter on the team. The playoffs came around, the lights got brighter, and for some reason, the last 2 years and the last 12 games in the postseason, the lights have been too bright for Orioles teams. It's crazy. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to blame the fans. How about that?
Oh, wow. That's a return on our ire.
That's a great idea. I never thought of that.
That's the direction. He is Erik Kratz. He's with us here on GCR. Eric, you joke about that, but what you just said is why, and Stan and I are not these guys. That's why there's a lot of people in Baltimore that said, well, you got to move on from Brandon Hyde. And the Orioles made it clear a day later they're not doing that. But, is there something about, hey, this is kind of who you are, and it's tough to rewrite your DNA now that you've become the team that chokes in the playoffs?
Man, chokes in the playoffs?
Is it unfair? They scored one run in 2 games.
I saw it. I saw the games. I think it's unfair because I think you're putting it's crazy to me. And that they think would you say Brandon Hyde lost this team during the year? If you would say that, if you would agree with that statement, then I would need to hear you say that when they're a game out of the playoffs and they're playing, or they're a game out of the division lead in July playing the Yankees in a big series. Before the series. I need to hear you say it before the series, not after they lose 3 or 4. Because to me, he has the pulse of this team. He is getting, to me, in the regular season, he's helping these guys through a season. They're still relatively young. That doesn't mean that their window is not closing. And to me, I think there's a mindset that, we got to change something. We got to change it. It's okay to know you have a good team and you just fell short. And put some of the ownership on the players.
Yeah.
Put some of the ownership on the manager and coaches, where you sit there and go, hey, if I don't see a change in this next year, then yeah, you know what? It's okay if he's on the hot seat. They want to win a World Series.
Eric, I got to ask you strategically, because you're a catcher and a lot of catchers make good managers. I'm a Brandon Hyde fan. But in game 1, and I've got the score sheets in front of me, you've got 2 outs and a runner on third base, and Bobby Witt's coming to the plate, and Corbin Burns has pitched 5 2/3 innings, and I love Burns. I'm not saying I would have taken him out of the game. Are you walking Witt there and pitching to Pasquantini?
Okay. Well, here's the question for you then, and I'll give you my answer.
Yep.
What do you do?
Well, I wrote a column about it. I thought it was the big decision. We could still be sitting here playing at 0-0 though, but there's no way I'm letting Bobby Witt, and he did it 2 days in a row where I thought there were other ways to maneuver out of innings, and he elected to pitch to Bobby Witt both games in the 6th inning, and both times he drove in the game-winning run.
Well, you must be a huge foul territory fan, because that's exactly what we talked about. Like the playoffs are all about getting this particular out. And you know what? Sometimes that means that there's 3 bases open, and we need to get to Erik Kratz hitting 7th before we're going to let Bobby Witt Jr. or Vinny Pasquantino or Salvador Perez beat us. Like in the regular season, you're like, well, I'm not pitching around Bobby Witt here. I'm going to get him to hit a ground ball.
Right, in the regular season. In the regular season
is so much different.
Yep.
To me, if I'm Brandon Hyde, I make sure that Corbin Burns and my catcher in the situation, I think it was McCann was catching that game.
Yep.
No, this guy's not going to let us beat us.
Yeah,
exactly what you said.
Don't you at least, the manager, even if you want, because I asked him the question in the post-game scrum, I said, did you think of pitching to Pasquantini? He says, I wanted to let my Corbin Burns, who's throwing the hell out of the ball, decide who he wanted to pitch to. Isn't it at least worth the walk to the mound to talk to him about it?
That decision's already made.
Yeah.
To me, we're having a scouting report. I'm James McCann. I'm talking to Corbin Burns. I caught Corbin Burns' debut in the big league.
That's right, you did. Yeah.
I can have this conversation with him. And I'm going to say, I don't need anybody coming out. I think Joshua Miller, is that the pitching coach? I'm not sure.
Drew French, yeah.
Yeah, Drew French. I was thinking of the Astros, but they're out too. But anyway, they know we are not letting him beat us. They know we talked about this. And to me, the pitch selection of a cutter in that situation on the plate was absolutely the worst pitch selection you could have. Because if you look at slugging percentage on balls, Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be the runner-up in MVP. I would have gone curveball out of the zone, curveball farther out of the zone, maybe a cutter up and away that's out of the zone. But the key there is it doesn't matter what pitch I throw, it's out of the zone, because Bobby Witt showed you later on and a couple times in the series, especially that one from Sir Anthony Dominguez, my man will chase. He wants to hit the ball, and he is still a young pup. He's 23 years old. So you sit there and you go, it has to be a ball out of the zone. But that's already talked about ahead of time.
Yep.
And Brandon Hyde, as a manager, you need to get the most out of your players. And to me, it's okay to use a mound visit in that situation.
Yeah. And I'll double down on it. In the top of the 6th yesterday, I mean 2 days ago, he let the relief pitcher, I think it was Webb, pitch to one guy in the 6th. He struck him out. He brought in C&L Perez, who gave up the highest Baltimore chop I've ever seen in my life for an infield hit. He struck out Garcia. Then Massey gets a bloop single to left, and he elects to He elects to bring in Cano to pitch to Bobby Witt. Why not walk Witt again and let C&L Perez pitch to Pasquantini? It just was crazy. And I am a fan of Hyde because I think over the long haul he's a darn good manager. But those two situations, I'm not letting Witt beat me in those games.
Eric, if I could, we are doing everything in our power to figure out what's going on with Adley Rutschman. And after game 2, he said some cryptic things like, I got to let my body get right. And a lot of us have said there's got to be an injury. But then, Mike Elias talks yesterday and doesn't leave a lot of ambiguity, says, no, there was no specific injury. It was just, anything more than the wear and tear of being a catcher. I don't know what to make of what happened this season, particularly if there wasn't a notable injury for Adley Rutschman. How concerned would you be about what we have seen from him over these last 3 months and how we calibrate what Adley Rutschman is moving forward?
You can calibrate Adley Rutschman as a player that should be an MVP field at the beginning of every year. You can calibrate him as a winning catcher behind the dish. I think you could also look at his numbers as a DH and say, why is he not catching more? Like, he hits better when he catches. His numbers are a stark difference when he catches. Now, can you catch 154 games, whatever he played this year? No, absolutely not. But you have to understand that you have a lot of depth in the minor leagues that's supposed to be really, really, really good big league players. Somebody else can DH if he's giving you the most value as a DH. I mean, as a catcher. And I say all that to say the fact that I thought the exact same thing. He has to be injured. And I went as far as to call some of my good friends on that team, and they confirmed for me he was never on the injured list.
Right.
He was never on not injured list, the injury report.
Right.
So now I'll say that to say this, that Chase Utley would stay off the injury report because he never wanted anybody, even his own teammates, to know he was hurt, and he was playing through some stuff. And so this is an all-star catcher. You have to believe in Adley Rutschman. So much so that I would, if I'm the front office, go to him and give him an extension this offseason. And I would go to Gunnar Henderson and give him the massive extension that he deserves. And I think a mental, just confidence that would give both of those players is something that I think the team can rally around. Jordan Westberg can rally around. Guys that are coming up can rally around, and I think it's something that is important next step for this team.
All right, so at the risk of you pulling a J.D. Vance on me and accusing me of being a fact checker, the numbers this year in particular, so he actually OPS'd 740 as a catcher, 859 as a DH, and for his career, OPS 650 as a catcher and 854 as a DH.
Okay, so I had it backwards.
Yeah, and that's the part that I think is part of the concern here is what we're really seeing, that it's the exact opposite. That if Adley Rutschman's going to be the hitter that we want Adley Rutschman to be, that he can't be a primary catcher in order to do it.
Okay, yeah, no, I had that completely backwards. I appreciate you calling me out.
It's not personal. I just wanted to have the conversation. Yeah.
No. That's and so that's the conversation that needs to be had then. I mean, because I thought it was the other way.
Yeah.
You can't not say that you can't have that conversation, because moving forward, from the interaction I've had with Adley, it's not been a lot. He wants to win. And if you think he is a leader on this team, if you think he is the future of this organization, you have to have that conversation that, what's going on? Why is this happening? What can we do to solve this problem? And, that's a tough conversation, because you don't get an MVP caliber bat that for some reason isn't hitting well when he catches. That's tough. You can't just replace a catcher.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess that's why they're using James McCann longer. So that makes a ton of sense.
They also have their number one prospect now in the minors is maybe Kobe Mayo's number one, but right behind him is Sammy Basayo, who's a left-handed monster catcher and hitter. He's only 20 years old. He only played about 6 weeks at AAA.
Seems like he's going to be a factor in this for sure. Erik Kratz, of course, it's at Erik Kratz 31 on Twitter is how folks give you a follow. And always Foul Territory. What do you guys have coming up today?
Let's see. We're gonna smell a little bit like champagne. We have Brendan Hannafy, one of the bullpen pieces for the Tigers coming on. Ken Rosenthal, and a guest to be named.
Ooh.
But I'm pretty sure it's a pretty cool guest.
Oh, all right. Erik Kratz, you're always a very cool guest, and we always appreciate you taking
Eric.
the time for us. No, seriously, I really do enjoy our conversations. Thank you for spending time with us this morning, man.
I appreciate you guys having me on. I hope it was less of a morgue talk and more of a
right. Try to
positive future talk. Even if I didn't have the stats right.
Trying to make it happen. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Eric.
Erik Kratz, former MLB catcher, Foul Territory host with us here on GCR. Hi. Yeah.
So I'm just thinking about that discrepancy between him, Rutschman, and I'm wondering if he doesn't factor into that first base mix more.
Sure,
next
moving
year.
forward.
Yeah.
It's tough because it seems to take away from what you thought the inherent value of Adley Rutschman was. This goes back to the when we would talk about DL Hall, right? And you were, before a lot of people, on the bullpen thing. And I got it, and I understood what you're saying. It's an opportunity cost thing that we're talking about. Like, the Orioles had invested in DL Hall to be part of this thing and didn't have a lot of other quality pitching prospects. And if they acknowledge that it's not going to work for DL Hall, that's problematic for them in a different way because of what else they don't have.
Right.
And I feel like it's a similar conversation when we talk about, hey, is the answer with Adley Rutschman just that he's really not a catcher? And maybe, but that really hurts why it was that we were all sold on the idea that Adley Rutschman was a definitive 1-1.
Yep.
That him being that as a catcher made him so much more valuable. If he can't be that,
well, that's a calibration he and his agent are going to want to make too.
Correct.
In other words,
their ability to get.
But I do agree. I think in light of that disparity, not discrepancy, the disparity, it's a necessary conversation the organization has internally, and then if they feel the way I'm talking now, that perhaps he's more of a DH first baseman, 40 games as a catcher, that still has a value.
Yeah.
It's just he's got to calculate, well, wait a minute, that's going to cost me a lot of money. You know,
I've thought that in a perfect world, he and Basayo essentially play two positions and just sort of flip-flop, right? Like, that you almost have this dream scenario. We don't have to be burdened by carrying a traditional backup catcher on your roster because you have two everyday players that both happen to be catchers. And somebody gets hurt, all good. You can just slide the other guy into the game. To me, that's a perfect world scenario. But is the story that Adley Rutschman simply can't produce while he's catching?
Yeah.
And the more evidence that we get, the more you find yourself asking that question. Like, is that just the reality for Adley Rutschman? And I hope it's not. Like, I hope that this year there was just something weird going on that can't be defined, and that'll be fixed. But
it was the fans.
Is that it was the fans? I do. There's a column that I wrote today at PressBoxOnline.com that covers you guys have heard my frustration. I will not get after fans for not being at the games. I won't do it. And it's about punching up and not punching down. And I'm not getting after people that have to make economic decisions. And I don't care for it. And I think there were other mistakes in the process that Major League Baseball has misjudged the wild card series. They have tried to make it a premium event. They price at a premium level that baseball fans have not accepted. Baseball fans have not.
Yeah, this is not particular to Baltimore.
No, not in any way.
Yeah.
In fact, in Baltimore, despite the weather, more people showed up than in Houston, where going into the series, a lot of people thought that Houston was the
huge favorite.
A favorite not only to win the series, but perhaps to go to the World Series.
Yep.
And they didn't have a weather problem. And yet more people showed up in Baltimore. There's a lot of factors that go into this. And we can.
You make a great point. It's baseball wanted its cake and to eat it too. There's no question that the more teams you have probably means more fans are coming to games, paying attention to baseball. But then when this first round comes up, you price it as if it's premium, and it really should be
much closer to the regular season. And again, any one of these factors that played out in Baltimore this week, the weather, the team struggling down the stretch, the
longshoremen walking out for a day.
Sure, we'll talk
2
about
days.
that. Change any one of these factors, and you probably have a sold-out building. There were 6 different factors that all went into it.
Right.
And we can all intelligently talk about it instead of just saying, well, this is embarrassing that the fans aren't showing up. Whoa, Chief. Whoa. There's one city that's proven to be impervious to this. San Diego has proven to be post-football, and the investment they made in the pot, like the people in San Diego, this is where they spend their money.
In. Yep.
That's what they have. But they don't. There isn't an alternative. There's not somewhere else
And that's
for them
when
to,
Baltimore was drawing 3 million fans.
Correct.
Before they had football.
Correct, 100%. And there was no team in D.C. on top of it.
Yep.
All right, so I want to tell you guys something. We're going to do another Arthur Millette show on Tuesday night. We will be at the Green. No, sorry, that's where we were this
Wait a
week.
minute, you're going to be up against the Orioles. Wait a minute, you're not
Actually, the
gonna
Orioles
be
would
up.
have been off on Tuesday
Yeah,
night,
okay,
too.
that's
So
true,
That's
too.
add an additional bummer to my list. This one had worked out that we were going to be doing a show on the off night, but not meant to be. We will be at Mother's North Grill in Timonium. That's where we will be on Tuesday night for the Arthur Millette show. Arthur Millette calls me 2 nights ago, says, I want to add something to this. I said, okay, Chief, what do you want to add? He said, I want to give away my tickets to the game next Sunday.
Wow.
My tickets.
Against
2
the
tickets.
Commanders.
That game. Correct. I want to give them away. Yeah, that big Lamar Jackson-Jaden Daniels matchup that's so good that CBS wouldn't allow NBC to flex it into Sunday night. That game.
Bastards.
That game, he wants to give away his 2 tickets. Now we're not gonna do a contest. We're just gonna give everybody that comes out a ticket, and we're gonna do a drawing, and that's the way it's gonna be at the end of the night.
Could I win?
You could win if you come out. Anyone?
But I'm associated
it's
with
not
the broadcast.
PressBox is not giving away the tickets. This
It's
has
Arthur
nothing to do
Millette.
with us. Arthur Millette is giving away his tickets. We are not doing it. He's doing it.
What if
I could win.
What if I
frankly.
offered to buy the tickets?
No,
beforehand?
no, not an option. He's giving them away to someone who comes out.
Some lucky
to
fan.
Mother's North Grill in Timonium on Tuesday night for the Arthur Millette show. You could be walking out, not only having met Arthur Millette and his guest, but also
and meet Glenn Clark.
and Glenn Clark and Rita and Griffin. Bring out make sure you get your glossy 8x10 photo for him to sign.
Would Griffin help you figure out how to put in the card on Sundays?
Yeah, he could do that too. But
Yeah.
the point being, we're giving away the tickets Tuesday night. PressBoxOnline.com/Millette. We got to get a break in. I just realized that. Chris Rose joins us next. We'll continue talking Orioles. Glenn Clark Radio. Experience the thrill of the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Advisory, coming October 17th to the 20th. See the world's best equestrians compete in the sport of eventing, the ultimate test of horse and rider. Enjoy a weekend festival featuring locally sourced food at the Fresh Food Fest, a beer, wine, and spirits showcase, shopping, and fun for all ages. Check out the Maryland Corgi Cup, interactive kids corner, and more. It's the place to be in October. Visit Maryland5star.us for tickets.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their legendary fat, delicious, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. It's crab season, so sit back and crack some crabs while watching the Birds pursue another divisional title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday night, the Costas Inn offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30. So head on down to the Costas Inn today at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at CostasInn.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin, and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
The latest edition of PressBox is available now. On the cover, Bo Smolka profiles Ravens star safety Kyle Hamilton, detailing his path from growing up the son of a basketball player to choosing football, being overlooked in the draft, and turning into a defensive unicorn as a playmaking Swiss Army knife in the NFL. Also inside, meet college football players from all of the area's D1 programs and some of the area's college soccer standouts as well. PressBox is available for free at over 500 locations throughout the region, including 60 Royal Farm stores. Or you can read the entire issue at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can also find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
All right, back in here on GCR. Continue along. Stan the Fan Charles is in here on a Friday edition of the program. Stan, what's the schedule for you next week, shows-wise?
Shows-wise, we're going to do the Ross Grimsley, Luke Jackson, Stan the Fan on Monday. Only we're going to attempt to get Shane Turner on,
okay,
former scout, and did a lot of work with the San Francisco Giants when they won 3 world championships. So it'll be Ross, Shane, and I.
Okay.
I think about 5 o'clock. Tuesday, we're probably taping, but it'll be Jeff Newman and Michael Hankin to talk about the Maryland 5-star event, but that will be taped and probably released on Wednesday.
Okay, very good. Facebook.com.
Or after the Arthur Millette show or something like that.
Facebook.com/PressBoxSports is where you find those shows.
And I think Gary Stein will be with me on that show.
And if you miss them live, YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline or PressBoxOnline.com/video. All right, we continue to try to figure out what the hell happened to the Baltimore Orioles and where they go from here. Another friend of ours, someone whose opinion I've always appreciated over the years. He's now with Jomboy and Talking Baseball. He's our guy, Chris Rose, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Chris, it's Glenn. Stan the Fan Charles is in studio with me this morning. It's always good to catch up with you, brother. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
You know, like not as good as they are in Cleveland, Chris. Not as good.
No, I know. That's okay. We balance it out by with football.
Right.
You guys are in a different strategy.
That is a very good point.
We'll call it even.
Chris, I kind of heard you guys like genuinely getting fired up about this, and you're not inherently wrong, which is, hey, last year it was cute. Last year, everybody in Baltimore was disappointed to have lost and gotten swept by the Rangers, but it was way easier to say, hey, brighter days are ahead, right? Like, this is the foundation. Look at what could be coming next. This year, we're in a different place, and there's a lot more confusion. There's a lot more questions about this young, core of players that really struggled in the second half of the season, Adley Rutschman chief among them, and there's a real task in front of Mike Elias and crew to fix this moving forward.
That's why we're having Chris Rose on.
Yeah, you're going to solve it.
He's going to sort out the confusion.
Yes, I should be able to solve it over the next 8 minutes, guys.
We were hoping you'd be here 9.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, I think I'll need the full 9, maybe 9:37. So here's the difficult thing, is that ever since the conclusion of last season, where they ended up getting swept by the eventual champion Texas Rangers, I said now is the time for them. I thought maybe, go out and get a free agent pitcher, whether that's a Blake Snell or somebody else. They ended up making the trade for Burns, which I loved. And because I thought that pitching was going to be the downfall. I said at the trade deadline, go get another pitcher. They ended up getting Zach Eflin, who pitched extremely well for them. I wanted them to aim a little higher, whether that was a Garrett Crochet. We probably thought that Skubal wasn't available, and now we see why with all that sort of stuff. But we thought that if the Orioles were going to, slip on the slide, that it was going to be because of their pitching. And they end up scoring 1 run.
Yeah.
Or 2 runs in the series.
One.
And one. And that's brutal. So does it make you, I'm always hesitant to say, particularly, when you lose a wild card series, because nobody notices in mid-July if you lose 2 of 3 to the Kansas City Royals. But when you lose 2 of a 3-game series, then everybody wants to hit the panic button. So where do we go from here? I think what they need is they need more proven veterans in that lineup. Who knows what's going to happen with Santander, who had an outstanding season. But I think that you hang on to probably 3 of the best guys you've got moving forward. Obviously, Gunnar is a guy that you're going to want to sign to extension. Adley, who the heck knows what happened this year? I think that's a bit of a mystery. I'm a big Kauser guy, but is Kerstead a guy you can move on from? Is Jackson Holiday definitely a part of your plans? Like, what is it? Is Westberg? Like, which of those guys do you feel most comfortable being able to live without? And so you could either fortify your rotation or get proven bats. And that is a key thing. When you're struggling the second half of the year, is to get somebody in that clubhouse that can say, guys, it's okay. I've been through this, whatever it is. So I still think they're in a great position, but the number one thing is identifying which guys you can't live without and which guys you can.
The weird part about that, I remember talking to this about this. I talk for a living at the deadline, Chris, is it seems like they were unwilling to move from any of that group of guys. Stan and I did this exercise in the first hour of the show today. Like, they almost have a complete roster of guys that they have seemed utterly committed to and unwilling to talk about or move in a deal. And I don't know. I think it's difficult to just keep saying, hey, keep doing this, stay the course with these guys, because to your point, like Jackson Holiday, I know he's young, but he didn't look the part at all this season, and it's not as simple as saying, well, hey, that happens to all young guys, and Jackson Merrill looked the part. Jackson Choury, all of the other Jacksons looked the part. It's the Jackson here that was the problem. It's a difficult thing to look at this and to say, do you just keep trotting out this group and say, hey, we had confidence that this was the group, we're going to live or die with this group being the group?
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, is ego involved to a certain degree? Of course it is, because you want to be known as the guy who drafted and developed this amazing young core that ended up then growing together throughout the minor leagues and the major leagues. Like, that's what happened to the Kansas City Royals in 2014, 2015. All those guys were winning championships together in the minor leagues, and then it came to fruition at the major league level. And so that's something that you want to be able to hang your hat on. But at the end of the day, is that what's best for this organization? I personally don't think so. There's a ton, and also there's the fear of giving up on a guy too soon, right? If Jackson Holiday, who struggled at times in 2024, turns into the player that we all think that he might, do you want to be the guy who ends up giving up, all those years of control, and you still might be in the very same spot next year because that's the way baseball works sometimes? Like, that's the fear. I do think with the change in ownership and a guy who, in my opinion, is going to be willing to dish out the dollars when his predecessor family was not at times, I think that's going to be very helpful to Mike Elias and the decision makers in the offseason.
Chris Rose is with us here on GCR, of course, now with Jomboy and talking baseball. Chris, Stan and I got into it earlier, so I don't think it's going to be Corbin Burnes. You brought up the rotation. Do you still feel like they need to also prioritize a true, number one, or that the group of Eflin, Grayson Rodriguez, and maybe adding in just another quality starting pitcher can be enough moving forward for this team?
I think you need a stud. I think that helps alleviate so much of the pressure throughout the regular season. And then when you get to the playoffs, Corbin Burnes worked into the ninth inning. Tarek Skubal and Cole Reagans, who threw great games in their respective starts in the American League Wild Card Series, they got through 6. He saved the Orioles 6 outs and was phenomenal throughout the game. We'll look back at the decision to pitch to Bobby Witt as one that's obviously costly, but he was everything you wanted this year. Everything. He's healthy. He's a stud. He eats up innings. He's dominant. I don't think it's as easy as saying, well, okay, you know what, we'll let him walk and we'll utilize the money elsewhere. I'm a firm believer in getting a guy that throws 200 innings a year at a high level how much that can help your franchise, not only in the playoffs, but for 6 months prior to that.
The Orioles made the decision that, or they announced yesterday that they're not going to move on from Brandon Hyde. Stan and I would both tell you we like Brandon Hyde, but I would have understood. Like if they walked in and said
he doesn't like you much, though, Glenn.
Yeah, well, boy, I don't blame him for that.
Is that a Glenn problem?
Yeah. It is. And you know what? I deserve that. I'm not even mad at him about it. But I would have understood, Chris. Like I would have, and I said that the last couple days. That like if they just said, "Hey, look, man, going 0-5 in the playoffs." We got to do something different, and you can't fire the players, so this is the way that it goes. I would have gotten it. What did you make of the decision to stay the course with Brandon Hyde, and do you believe that the Orioles can win a World Series with Brandon Hyde as their manager?
Well, first of all, as much baseball as I watch, and I do watch a ton of it, I'm not locked into every Orioles game the way that you guys are. So I want to say that. So I'm not micromanaging every pitching move he's making and things of that nature. But I will say this. Sometimes there are guys who are outstanding at getting you from A to B, and that move from A to B can be immense, right? We're talking about a team that lost 100 games for whatever it was, 3 out of 4 years or what have you. And to get them to this point shouldn't just be passed over and glossed over and said, oh, okay, well, you did a great job. Like that is a monumental task that a lot of guys cannot do. That's great. You're here. You're part of the discussion. The goal is to win the frickin' World Series for the first time since 1983. And if you really believe that he is not the guy, then it is time to move on from him. I think he does a good job. I haven't heard anything out of that clubhouse that would lead me to believe that he doesn't have their backing, because that's usually the first thing that goes when guys don't believe. Like, could they have gotten a Terry Francona? Could they have made a behind-the-scenes call and said, hey, Terry, like, you could have this job instead of Cincinnati? Like, that's a call I make. Is it Joe Madden? Is that a call that you're comfortable making? I don't know. Bruce Bochy came out of retirement to lead the Rangers to their first ever World Series. So there are guys that might be interesting for them, but I don't think there's too many guys, if that makes sense.
I get it. No, I understand that. And I don't know if that was something or if they just sort of said, nope, we just believe in Brandon Hyde. Brandon Hyde's our guy. That's the way that it's going to go.
Chris, much like the Astros a few years ago got Michael Brantley, who was just a solid veteran at-bat guy. Can you think of anybody that's on this free agent list? And I don't know if I don't want to put you on the spot if you haven't really scanned it, but that really fits the bill for the Orioles, that gives them a more veteran presence against such a backdrop of these younger guys?
Yeah, that's the problem, is that the list, it drops from Soto pretty quickly. And I think Brantley is a great call on that, so I'm going to have to comb through the weeds.
Yeah.
If he hadn't had such a terrible year, Paul Goldschmidt is a guy that comes to mind.
Yep.
Christian Walker's a really, really good player Arizona.
Yeah.
For the Arizona Diamondbacks. He's a power source. He plays every day. He's a great defensive first baseman, really good dude in the clubhouse. A guy like that, certainly, I mean, having been through a World Series run a year ago, how
about Tyler O'Neill?
He feels more like a part of something instead of an everyday cog.
Okay.
I mean, he's a guy that mashes left-handed pitching.
Yeah.
But I just don't know. He's a good player. He's an intense player, very much like Walker. But I want a guy that I know I can pencil in 162 games a year if need be. And I think Walker's one of those guys.
Okay.
I hear you. It's a weird thing where I would say they just need right-handed bats so much that I probably would be.
Christian Walker's a good player. Yeah, I like him.
Chris, but now moving forward, like whose is this to lose in the American League? Because I think a lot of people.
Well, let's put it this way: if the Yankees do not make the World Series for the first time in 15 years, y'all better stay away from New York City the day they lose, because I don't know what'll happen. It's I mean, listen, I'm a huge Guardians fan.
I know that.
We are playing a team in the mirror, literally. Like Detroit is their carbon copy. There's 3 differences between the Guardians and the Tigers. One team has the best pitcher in the American League. One team has a guy that's almost 40-40-40, and one team has the best closer in baseball.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's going to turn out, but that'll be interesting. The Royals, they kind of limped into the playoffs. They do have some veteran pitchers that could give the Yankees trouble. Like Soto's numbers against Michael Wacha are not great. Seth Lugo has had some success against the Yankees, and we just saw what Cole Reagans can do. He was, I thought, tied with Burns to be the second best starting pitcher in the American League behind Skubal this year. But if the Yankees don't get past the Royals and then take care of either the Guardians or Tigers, something's seriously wrong. Now, the National League, you can make a great argument for all 4 teams. And I actually made the argument today on Baseball Today, which is our podcast, that the Padres should be the favorite, in my opinion. They're not the betting favorite. They should be the favorite, though, over the Dodgers.
Interesting.
I love that because about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I dropped $20 on the Padres.
There you go. There you go.
20 for 320.
No,
I'll
man,
take that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's not bad at all. All right.
Good for you.
Baseball Today, of course, is the podcast, as he just mentioned, with Jomboy and at Chris Rose on Twitter. Chris, what else can we plug for you, man?
Still doing my NFL gig every Sunday. So, when the early games are done at 7:30 Baltimore time, flip us on as we get ready for the Sunday night game. And then right after the Sunday night game's over, flip on back so we can break down all of Week 5 in the NFL. And I imagine that your game against the Bengals is going to be right at the top of the list. Should be a fun one.
No doubt about that.
You're
Chris,
a hard-working guy, Chris.
Always have been. Always appreciate you, man. Thank you for doing this. Let's talk again real soon, all right?
You got it, guys. Anytime.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thank you,
Have a
Chris.
good weekend.
Chris Rose with us here on GCR. I wouldn't even be opposed to Tyler O'Neill. Like, looking at the splits, I'm like, yeah, you could use somebody else that can hit against lefties.
He mentions one other guy is very attractive to me. The only thing is he's 34. Would he take like a 2-year, $30 to $35 million, sort of like the Jose Abreu deal, maybe an option for a 3rd year? But, boy, I'd much rather have him than Ryan Mountcastle playing.
You're talking about
first
Goldschmidt
base.
or you're talking about
I'm talking
Walker?
about Christian Walker.
Walker, yeah.
Walker's had a 6.8 WAR this year.
OPS 803 this season after 830 and 804 in the 2 years before that. And it's not the same. This front office had nothing to do with giving up on Christian Walker years ago, so there's no, I'm not opposed. I'm not opposed whatsoever.
I've always been a Dan Duquette fan, but watching Tobias Myers last night, not that the team he traded him to got the benefit out of him, but Tobias Myers, I knew when we made that trade. I looked up his numbers and I didn't like it. Tim Beckham was what we got.
Well,
we got a great
for a couple months.
We got a great 3 weeks out of Tim Beckham.
He was hitting and then there was that. That was exactly what they got out of Tobias Myers. Or for Tim Beckham, sorry.
Yep.
All right, Stan, are you packing up? Is that what
is that okay with you?
That's quite all right, my friend. That's quite all right.
I'm not pulling what's her name? I can't think of Justin Verlander's wife.
Kate Upton. No.
No.
You showed up. You were here.
I'm here, man.
That's right. You were here. Back in action on Monday, as he mentioned, at Stan the Fan on Twitter, as always. Stan, appreciate you, brother.
Thank you
Thank
both.
you. Good to see you.
Griffin Bass, the best producer in radio.
I am not here next Friday. Well, let's calm down on that.
I'd say he's probably pretty right.
I'm not here next Friday, so that'll be between the two of you guys about whether
to do a show.
It's up to me.
Yeah.
I guess we can do a show.
All right. So Stan and Griffin next Friday.
No reason to take this.
I'll be in Indianapolis. I will be running around.
I don't want to speak for him. And wait a minute, what's the Jewish holiday situation?
Well, that was this week. Oh, Wednesday.
No, Yom Kippur.
Is
it
next Saturday or is it Friday?
I think it starts Saturday. I think.
Okay, I'll double check that.
Okay, but if it's possible, I'm going to invite Stein to sit in with us.
It does begin the evening of October 11th, so next Friday night.
Okay, so I'm here next Friday
in the morning. Yep.
Unless you wanted to, if you wanted us to do the show in the evening, I could not do it.
I was actually thinking about
a
might
one-time
be
thing.
Friday
like
Night Lights might be
6 to 8
might be the move for us. All right, when we come back in, we'll get a tidbit, we'll get tubular, and the final segment of the Arthur Millette Show with Keaton Mitchell. That's on the way. Glenn Clark Radio. Brace yourselves for an unparalleled in-person betting experience at the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbook and Bars in Canton and Towson. Experience the thrill of live betting with Baltimore's only state-of-the-art Vegas viewing TV experience. Choose between our on-site tellers or the convenience of our self-bet kiosks to place your bets. Gather your betting buddies and head over to the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks today. Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton. The ultimate destination for game day excitement, great food, and live in-person betting. Must be 21. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Go to mdgamblinghelp.org.
Hey Baltimore, it's number 10, Arthur Millette, and I'm hoping you'll slot us in all season long for the Arthur Millette Show. We will be traveling around the region all season, giving you the chance to get to know me and my teammates. There will be some football talk and a lot more. You can watch this show live on PressBox's Facebook and YouTube pages and listen every Friday night on 105.7 The Fan. Find out more at PressBoxOnline.com/Millette. The Arthur Millette Show, the only show in town that's a work of art.
The next Arthur Millette Show is Tuesday, October 1st at the Green Turtle in Towson. It's brought to you by Easy Pass and 1-800-GAMBLER.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive style, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. There, you just saved money with Easy Pass, all without slowing or receiving a notice in the mail. Well done, thrifty driver, well done. Get your Easy Pass at DriveEasyMD.com.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
All right, back in here as we are winding down for a Friday edition of the program. Today's show has also been brought to you by County Sports Zone. CountySports.zone is the website. It's brought to you by, or it's made possible by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com, and it's got everything high school sports related. Schedules, scores, rankings, everything you need to know. News updates for every school, every team, every sport, all across the state. So not just Baltimore County, Baltimore City, Harford County, and Arundel County, but going out to the west, going to the Eastern Shore, the DMV area, up into like Talbot County, Kent County. They've got you covered. CountySports.zone, proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Trying to think if there was anything that we didn't cover. I mean, so yesterday I have a league where they have very short benches, and I had decided, I saw that Kirk Cousins was on the waiver wire, or not on the, sorry. I saw that he was available. I looked at the quarterbacks that are available, and I was prepared to play Matt Stafford this week with Jared Goff on a bye, so I said, well, I'll just go ahead and pick up Kirk Cousins for the week. And I tried to, only to find out that he was on the waiver wire
because someone dropped him.
And so I wouldn't have been able to have him. So I said, well, crap. All right, then I'm not doing that. And,
he was never on my radar, but remember I was complaining about Rashee Rice not being placed on IR yet, so he finally got put on IR.
Yeah.
So I had been rolling with Anthony Richardson. I didn't want to drop Richardson quite
Yep.
yet. But then I was like, oh, okay, I can add a quarterback. So no brainer. I was like, oh, I'm adding Geno Smith. So I picked up
Kirk
Geno
Cousins
Smith.
available?
He is available.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh,
so I was like, yeah, I'm taking Geno Smith.
Not
and,
great.
Yeah, so Kirk Cousins has a pretty good game last night.
He
did all right.
Great. Yeah, he did all right. Now, some of that, as much as we're praising Kirk Cousins, there was a tweet that went, the Buccaneers were up 3 with a minute 40-something to play and had the ball at Atlanta's 28-yard line. There's a lot of conspiracy that was involved. When Mike Evans was also standing wide open, the one pass play that they call was a screen, and nobody bothered to go with Mike Evans down the field. And Mike Evans was not able to get Baker Mayfield's attention for what would have been at least, catch the ball, go down at the 1-yard line, the game's over.
Or score so my fantasy team can get another touchdown.
Which would have been nice because I also played Mike Evans in a couple of leagues last night. Yuck. So far, my decision to bet with the money, to follow the money, 0 for 1. God damn it. God damn it. That's what it is. All right, you ready to give us a tidbit?
Yeah.
Let's do that then.
Have you ever thought of taking a cruise to these wonderful destinations with sunny skies and beautiful beaches? Well, wait no longer. We're ready for you to cruise from the Cruise Maryland Terminal.
Have a little phrase that you can go from baggage to margarita in about 15 minutes.
Choose fun with an array of destinations, onboard activities, entertainment, and world-class cuisine.
Contact your travel agent and book your cruise today. Let your adventure begin.
Also, did the thing where I benched Kyle Pitts in my Kyle Pitts league after a 0 the previous week. So I'm staring down 15. I'm sure Taysom Hill will go get me 15 points this weekend. I'm sure that'll be the case. Really happy about that. And
Kyle Pitts for Taysom Hill.
That's the thing. And then
I don't think
that's what everybody was.
I don't think you're wrong.
And then one of the leagues where I have Mike Evans, I was like, yeah, I bet I'm doing really great in that league. And I look, and I'm going up against Drake London and Younghoe Koo, who combined for 50 points. The two of them.
Well, it's hey.
Yeah, pleasant.
A lot of time left.
Yeah, sure, you're right about that.
There's a lot of time left.
There's a lot of time left.
This was from earlier in the week that I missed. But for the first time since 2007, both teams who made the World Series the previous season, they will not be. They're not in the playoffs. They missed the playoffs. So first time that's happened in 17 years. Yeah. All right. So last night. So last night
You've been
also
sitting
the
on
Mets,
that all week.
I missed it, and I saw it yesterday. And I was like, oh yeah, this is worth sharing. Pete Alonso for the Mets.
It was quite the moment.
Was pretty impressive. He hit the 10th go-ahead homer in the 9th inning or later in a winner-take-all game in playoff history, MLB playoff history, including this is the first one ever with his team trailing, hitting a go-ahead home run with your team trailing in the 9th inning of a winner-take-all game. So pretty insane scenes in Milwaukee from the New York Mets. And it all times up pretty perfectly because the football game went right to halftime, so we're able to go full attention on the 9th inning of this game, and man, the Mets. Kirk Cousins is now the second player in NFL history with. Do you want to do primetime stats? He's only the second player in a primetime game with 500 yards and 4 passing touchdowns.
Sure. Aaron Rodgers.
Not Aaron Rodgers.
Patrick Mahomes.
No.
We could be here all day. Ben Roethlisberger.
Not Ben. It's a pretty Ben line, though.
It is a Ben line, yes. Phillip Rivers.
Nope.
Tony Romo.
Maybe you're overthinking it.
I'm overthinking it?
Yeah.
How could I be overthinking
I don't know.
it?
You haven't named the greatest.
Tom Brady?
Thomas Brady in 2011. Also,
Tom Brady wasn't really a 500-yard guy.
Yeah.
I don't think I was overthinking it. I would think I was more appropriately thinking it.
He's only the maybe I'll save this one actually. But he's only the 13th player. I have another one, but I just saw this one. 13th player in NFL history with 500 passing yards and 4 touchdowns in a single game. Only the 13th player. Yeah. I'm not going to.
You don't want me to do.
Because I didn't research that one, and the stat only has just that Cousins is the 13th. The one I do have ready, though, Mike Evans recorded his 22nd career game with multiple receiving touchdowns.
Okay.
And that is the 7th most all time. Who
Randy,
has more?
Randy Moss.
Randy Moss is, yes, of course, on the list. He is second. 36 games. Second all time.
Jerry Rice.
Jerry Rice is number 1. 44 such games with multiple receiving touchdowns. Number 1, Jerry Rice. Number 2, Randy Moss.
Larry Fitzgerald.
No Larry Fitz.
Surprising.
Larry Fitz had 19. He's 13th on the list.
Surprising. Terrell Owens.
T.O., number 3 on the list. Rice, Moss, T.O.
How about Isaac Bruce?
Not Isaac Bruce.
Marvin Harrison.
Marvin Harrison, number 4 on the list, 29.
How many am I supposed to be guessing?
So Evans is 7th. Let's do the top 6. You have 4 of the top 6. In order, by the way. So you're looking for 5 and 6 now.
5 and 6. Andre Johnson.
No Andre Johnson. Where's Andre Johnson?
Reggie Wayne.
No Reggie Wayne.
Chris Carter.
Chris Carter, number 5 on the list. Tied with Marvin Harrison, actually. So tied for 4th.
Torrey Holt.
Not Torrey Holt.
Julio Jones.
Not Julio.
Huh. I feel like it's got to be, it's got to be modern. Like, I don't think it could be a Drew Pearson or a, Art Monk or a Andre Reed. Andre Reed?
No.
Okay. Did I say Tim Brown?
You did not, but he's not the answer. Tim Brown's tied with Larry Fitz.
I want to go something crazy like DeAndre Hopkins.
Not DeAndre Hopkins, but you're right in your thinking.
I'm right in my thinking.
As in, he's an active player.
Oh, he's an active player. Okay. Active. Beckham.
Not Odell. Odell is at least outside the top 25.
Because you think of that next group of guys, and they're like too. So like Jamar Chase is too young, and Justin Jefferson's too young, and CeeDee Lamb is too young. Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams
Okay.
is 6th on this list. Only one game ahead of Mike Evans right now, so they're maybe in a little bit of a tight race.
How about that moving forward? How
Receiving
about
touchdown
that?
games.
All right, very good. Let's get. How about we get tubular?
Experience the thrill of the Mars, Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Advisory, coming October 17th to 20th. See the world's best equestrians compete in the sport of eventing, the ultimate test of horse and rider. Enjoy a weekend festival featuring local food, shopping, and fun for all. Come for the event and stay for the experience in Cecil County, home to the Chesapeake Bay waterfront, vibrant small towns, and family entertainment. Tickets on sale now at maryland5star.us.
All right, here's what's coming up this weekend, totally tubular-wise. Yes, no Orioles. It's what it is. Tonight, Johns Hopkins football's at home, 6 o'clock against Rowan, and our buddy Gino Gregkowski, their offensive coordinator. CentennialConference.tv. WNBA semifinals continue. The Minnesota Lynx and Connecticut Sun. That one's tied up 1 apiece, right? That series, I believe, so that can't end tonight. That's 7:30 for Game 3. However, the New York Liberty have a 2-0. They are on the cusp of knocking the champs out. As the New York Liberty have a 2-0 series lead on the Vegas Aces. They could end that tonight, Game 3 at 9:30. The first NHL game of the regular season is
Really?
this afternoon.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
What?
From Prague.
Oh.
It's the Devils and the Sabres, 1 o'clock on NHL Network.
You're lying.
Everything else is still the rest of the season starts on Tuesday night. Like in America, the season or in Canada, wherever it is, starts on Tuesday night. But they start in Prague this afternoon and tomorrow morning. They're playing games, those two teams.
Oh, wow. They start at 1?
Yeah.
It starts in an hour?
Well, because it's in the Czech Republic, dog.
No, they should play our time.
Okay. Tomorrow, Navy Air Force, noon on CBS. William and Mary Towson, 6 o'clock on Monumental. Loyola Navy Soccer, 1 o'clock on ESPN+. UMass Lowell at UMBC in soccer at 7 o'clock. And Maryland's soccer team is at home against Michigan State, 7:30 on Big Ten Network+. Baseball schedule tomorrow, TBS, Game 1 between the Tigers and Guardians at 1:08. It's also on True TV, and then Game 1 between the Royals and Yankees, 6:38 as well. Fox for Game 1 between the Mets and the Phillies at 4:08, and FS1 for Game 1 for the Padres and Dodgers at 8:38. Final preseason game for the Capitals is tomorrow, 5 o'clock, against the Bruins on Monumental and NHL Network. And on Sunday, there's a UFC pay-per-view tomorrow night, Pereira and Roundtree.
And watch Alex Pereira knock out Khalil Roundtree.
Okay.
Because he will, I promise.
There's also a WWE pay-per-view tomorrow night that they're starting at 6, so that won't compete, because now they're the same company, so they can't compete against each other. So
what time do the WWE pay-per-views usually start?
I think 7 or 8.
Oh, okay,
they're bumping it up to 6, so it won't go up against.
What do they go, like 3 hours?
I don't even think they go 3 hours anymore. Maybe something like that. Whatever it is. CBS on Sunday for Ravens Bengals at 1 o'clock. The late TV game on CBS is Packers Rams at 4:25 locally. Fox has Cardinals 49ers at 4 locally. Of course, Sunday morning football, Jets Vikings 9:30 a.m. from London. Sunday night football, Cowboys Steelers at 8:20 on NBC. The London games on NFL Network. The National League Series continue on Sunday. Game 2 between the Mets and the Phillies, 4:08. Game 2 between the Padres and Dodgers, 8:03. Both games on Fox Sports 1. And the WNBA playoffs will continue on Sunday. We just don't know, because we don't know if both series will still be playing, so they got to announce that. And we'll update accordingly. Non-sports highlights.
Not a whole lot. Nate Bargatze hosting SNL tomorrow with Coldplay as the musical guest. And then tonight on USA
what a year for the Whites. Just what a year.
Just always.
What a year.
I mean, a lot of years have been.
Yeah, well, most of them, sure.
Scare Tactics on I guess they're rebooting the old Scare Tactics show with Jordan Peele producing it. Apparently.
I don't remember.
It's on
Scare
USA.
Tactics.
It's on USA. They've been showing previews for it while we've been watching like Raw. And,
You've been watching.
You're not watching Raw?
I'm working, and it's on in the background so that I have a general idea of what they talk about on the podcast.
No, they had it was like they did it in the early 2000s, I think.
If you say so, I just don't know anything about it.
It was like a scary prank show, like where they try to put people in like actual situations. It looks funny.
All right.
Cody Rhodes apparently is featured in an episode, so
okay.
You can check that
Good
out.
for him.
A new episode of Penguin in Tulsa.
About
King
time
on
that
Sunday.
guy had something go for him.
Story just continues.
Apparently, because the Joker movie is this weekend, right?
Yes.
And apparently, it's getting panned.
Oh, really?
I think that's what the reviews do not seem to be good. For,
good. Maybe I can
the
save
old
myself
Joker movie.
because
Oh, you were gonna go?
I think I was gonna go tonight, but not. I
the-
already wasn't feeling it just because I don't know why. But
Yeah, I don't really know why either.
I
you know what I would say about the Joker movie? It's not fun.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
it's good, but it's not fun. And so it doesn't make you want to say, like, yeah, I'm going to go have a good time at the movie theater by going to the Joker movie.
I'm like, I could go see, Deadpool Wolverine,
Yeah, right? That's fun.
Or Twister's still showing somewhere. So
Is it?
like,
Probably
yeah.
somewhere. 38%
fun.
from the audience, 38% from the critics, 36% from the audience for the Joker.
Wow.
Or Joker Folie à Deux, whatever they're calling it. Yeah, not getting. Meanwhile, the Transformers movie is getting rave reviews.
Is it really?
Rave.
Maybe I'll see that.
89% from the audience, 89% from the critics, 98% from the audience on the Transformers movie. Joker panned. Transformers great.
Might have to switch
Apparently,
up
Wild
the-
Robot is also really good.
Yeah, I saw that too. And I was
Oh,
like,
did you?
No, I haven't
Oh,
seen
okay.
it. I mean, I saw it's out, and I was like, oh, see, like that looks like it would be.
When does the Saturday Night Live movie come out?
There's a Saturday Night Live movie.
Oh yeah, from like the making of Saturday Night Live.
I don't know. I don't know. Is my answer.
Thank you. Very helpful. Saturday Night comes out. When does it? Is it out?
They've just not been pushing this very
What
well.
the hell?
Or
Is it out? It might be out.
SNL
I see showtimes. Oh no, that's next week. Sorry, next week. Is
Oh,
when it
next
comes
week.
out.
All right.
Next week. Yeah, I'll definitely go see that.
Next Friday. Okay.
I'll go see that. All right, very good.
Exactly 49 years after the night it takes place.
Sure.
So it's about the okay. So it's
that's
about the first.
That's the date of the first,
episode.
because this is the
Yeah.
50th season of Saturday Night Live, so that makes sense. All right. Thanks today to Stan. Thanks also to Bo. Thanks to Chris Rose, to Erik Kratz. We'll get all of it up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh my God.
tab. It's tab at Glenn Clark Radio. Am I supposed to say it's so good?
Oh, yeah,
I am
I guess
supposed to
that's
say
right.
it's
I'm
so
supposed to say
good.
it.
No, you're supposed to say it's so good. You're supposed to say, "Oh my God."
So when we were saying here we go, we just weren't saying it's
Yeah,
so good.
correct. We gotta.
Yeah, you're
You know what this is about, right? It's a the tab, the greatest hits section at Glenn Clark Radio. I don't even know.
The Mets did good last night, so I was like, oh, we should honor the Mets.
I understand it was a good thought, but it did screw me up this time. This one was on you, not on me. A lot of them are on me. This one was on you. The Bat Around tomorrow morning with Paul and Ryan. Of course, we'll have Project Game Day on Sunday, immediately following Ravens-Bengals, and then we'll be back on Monday with Stuff and Things. Femi will join us for sure on Monday. We know that. Jeremy will join us, Stuff and Things beyond that. Thanks to everybody. Oh, you need to tell us one more time about what's going on at Live Casino.
True, I do, because every time that Baltimore's football team is home, or Washington's football team, who is home this Sunday, when they score a touchdown during those home games, Live Rewards members will receive $7 in free slot play. You have to have your Live Rewards card inserted into the slot machine, any slot machine on the floor, and be actively playing. But once you are playing and they score a touchdown, $7 free slot play on your account and on your machine. Valid for slot play only. Adderall Mills must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit MD Gambler or 1-800-GAMBLER for help.
All right, very good. Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including the Maryland 5-Star, Live Casino and Hotel, Cruise Maryland, Ocean City, Easy Pass, Royal Farms, Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, The Costa Sin, MSAA, Maritime Magic, CIAA Tournament, the Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin, at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great weekend. Go Ravens. Go. Do we say go Royals? Like, do we, just because they're playing the Yankees? No,
because they're playing the Yankees.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we do have to root against the Yankees.
Anyone but
that
the
has to
Yankees
happen.
go.
Yeah. Go Towson. Go Navy. I think that's the list. Hopkins, sure. Duke sucks. We wrap up today's show. This is from Tuesday night, segment number 3 of the Arthur Millette Show with special guest Keaton Mitchell from the Green Turtle in Towson. Third and final segment of the Arthur Millette Show. We are live at the Green Turtle in Towson. Glenn and Rita, Arthur Millette, Keaton Mitchell is out here with
Shout out to Keaton.
Yeah.
Make your trip to the game easy by saving the Easy Pass waive for tolls. Go to driveeasymd.com. That's driveeasymd.com. Arthur Millette, you are on Twitch.
Yes.
Tell me about it.
What you waiting on? You playing? I mean, you know, man. You know, I'm a humble guy, man.
Playing.
But my Twitch, Arthur Millette, man, one of the best 2K players in the NFL. If y'all don't believe me, check out the stream.
Oh,
yeah. I'm making a big statement. I am.
Wait, Keaton, have you played against Arthur?
Yeah, we play all the time.
That's my road dog.
That's why I said he playing. He been posted. You feel
Yeah, I
me?
was like everybody been telling
Yeah.
me to do this.
Come on.
I got him this time.
He know what's up, man. He playing.
As an old person, I need y'all to explain the Twitch thing to me. So I'm supposed to watch you play video games?
But it's not just about video games. It's conversation.
Okay.
You might be watching videos on YouTube talking about that as well. It just might be someone.
It's really just
It's kind of like the Arthur Millette Show.
Yeah, it's just more personal.
Another way to reach fans.
Yeah,
for real.
another way to reach fans.
Like you'll have fans in the chat talking to you.
Yep.
They can just see you and you playing the game.
Yeah, my son asked me to follow him on Twitch, and I was like, why would I do that?
I mean, at least you don't know what you do.
You can't follow your son?
Hey,
Wow.
That's an extra.
Wow.
That's a.
I did it, but
I don't want to watch him play Game Boy. That's what's
There.
Yeah.
Nah, you just gotta watch him. You can still follow him though. That's
Yeah, give
that's
him
plus
follow.
one.
Subscribe.
he follow,
Okay,
right? But all he do is play Madden. So what am I supposed to? I'm supposed to watch it. Oh, okay.
Nah, just follow.
Okay.
Just follow and
The
you
follow
did
is
your
what y'all-
job.
Y'all looking for the follow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's about to stay.
Got it.
Who do you
Right.
play as when you play 2K?
We play a lot of my career, so everybody gets their personal player.
Okay.
We formulate a team. Like we got pro-am team called Flock Nation. You know what I'm saying? Like
Who else on the team? Wait a second.
everybody.
Yeah,
Our
bro, we
players.
really gotta switch it up.
We're a close team.
And do
like,
you just play against like
random people
so
all over the world? Like
Wow.
we're a close knit.
We just can't lose.
Yeah, we just can't lose because
If
everybody
we lose,
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So it's just like it's another way for us to see their camaraderie.
but
and
people
bond.
know.
No, that's
Like
dope.
the people that you're playing against know they're playing against.
Yeah, just like we have the football logo.
Shout out Ronnie 2K.
Yeah, shout out Ronnie 2K. Man.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
dope.
You know, he set us up with the football logo so they know who they're playing against. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
it's a good time.
Like if it's a rapper that's playing 2K that had a mic over there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's
That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you play against like rappers? If you,
I don't really see.
Person.
Yeah. I don't really see.
who was it? Come on.
I think it was.
Nah, it'd be a lot of random people out there though. Like,
It was Life and Lucci actually.
Okay,
I still have them on Xbox.
that's cool,
Yeah.
man. That
That was a couple years ago. That was like 4 years ago. But yeah, man, like Streaming is fire, man. You got one? Yeah, I gotta be streaming.
Are you on Twitch too?
Yeah.
What's my name? Yeah.
Hey, man.
My
Keith
name.
Mitchell, man.
Come on, man.
Keith Mitchell.
There you go. Give him a follow. All right, there was somebody who was back. There were a couple people that were cool that were back in town this week. Did you get a chance to see? I'll start with before I get to your guy. Did you get a chance to see Angel Reese?
I did. I seen
Angel
Reese. We seen Angel Reese. Who else? We seen Quincy Wilson.
Yeah.
We seen your boy Carrington.
Buck Carrington.
Who from Carrington from the Wizards?
Oh, Bub. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Seth Rollins. Do that
I
like
did see him.
WWE.
I didn't see him at the game though. I just seen when they posted him. I ain't seen him at the game though.
Another Olympic girl. Shout out to her too.
Oh yeah.
Sky Russell.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's her as well.
Do you do you go over to try to get a selfie or something? Is that?
I mean, I ain't gonna lie to you. I was found out when Quincy Wilson was in the indoor.
I got my
and I touched the medal.
Yeah.
And,
gold medal,
and I was messing with him. I was like, hey, young boy, come here real quick. Let me tap your legs, get some of that speed.
We're talking about Ryan Williams being 17. He's 16.
Yeah, that's
insane.
This
He's a great athlete. He got a bright future ahead of him.
Could you imagine going
And
back
he
to?
still got to clean his room and do his
That's what I'm
dishes.
saying. Could you imagine
Okay.
doing that? And you had to go back to high school. Like
Yup.
you got to take.
I mean, I'll be ready to go back to high school.
Nah, for real. Can't tell me nothing.
Can't tell me nothing.
We're the medal to the prom.
Fastest young guy in the world.
Your guy, Mark Ingram,
Oh man,
was back in town. So I don't think people are aware of your relationship with Mark Ingram.
real close, man. That's my dog.
Can you tell me all about that?
Mark was one of my OG vets, man. When I first came in the game, undrafted in New Orleans. He pushed me a lot. I didn't really know, like I said, I was still learning football when I was playing in the league, like my first couple of years. But he pushed me to always just believe in myself. Obviously, me being undrafted, always working hard, because if you have me in front of your name, you have to come to work every day. And he always told me, like, know what you're signing up for. Like, know what you're signing up for. All right, you're undrafted, you want to play football? All right, bet. If that's the case, then you know that you have to work 7 days out of the week. And to be great too as well, but for you, you're going to have to put in that a little bit extra. And shout out to Mark, man. That's my guy. God wins, bro.
Did you get to see him while he was in town?
I see. Now I'm mad at you, bro.
Why?
'Cause you ain't introduced me.
Oh.
See, I was mad at Justice. Cause he done told me how cool he was, but then
That ain't nothing. I'll
you
get
locked
come back
in.
up and it's good.
Man, that's tough.
See if I can get him on the show, Mark. I need that.
What they used to say, big trust?
Yeah, big trust, my brother.
Big trust.
Big trust. Let's make that happen. Let's make that happen. You all, you didn't listen to the Future record, did you, by chance?
Future.
No, I'm actually with you. Everybody's crashing it. It's his third #1 album of the year.
See, I wasn't
And
gonna
I'm
say
not sure
that.
how.
You listen.
Some of his songs, but what he just dropped,
Yeah, it's bad.
yeah.
Yeah.
he
At this
really
point,
dropped
people
it.
are just
At
liking
this point,
his
they're just saying
music
they
to
like
liking
Future,
it.
just-
Yes, yes.
How can you make 3 albums in 1 year though and have it all? Like that's too
I
much.
mean, honestly, it's just watered down. Your music doesn't have substance, and no one can relate to it.
All those songs he just dropped was probably old.
Oh,
He
so
just
like
trying
if
to
he
put
had it in the
something
wrong.
out
You know they got songs.
Yeah.
Man, it is a statement though that he can put it out. People are just like, yeah, it's still the #1 album in the country. Like,
You know
that
why?
is-
Because a lot of people follow each other nowadays.
Well,
It's no originality now.
maybe they should be checking out Larry June instead.
I mean, I don't even think it has to be Larry June. I just think people like the tweet I said.
Yep.
Be
Yep.
100% who you are.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. We're at the Green Turtle. We're in Towson for the Arthur Millette Show. The Green Turtle, again, is the only Green Turtle with bottle service. And you can book your table right now for Tap-In Thursdays, plus the Bet Park Sportsbook on the 2nd floor. They got football pitcher specials, $5 draft beer pitchers, $12 cocktail pitchers. You want to make sure you check that out. I want to talk about this. I want to get everybody's opinion at the table. So there's a lady, and her name's Raven, ironically.
Oh, wow.
And she's gotten a lot of attention on Twitter this week.
What about what?
She retweeted a tweet. The original tweet said, I couldn't date a woman that eats more than me, to be honest. She retweeted it and said, I ate 16 wings on a date once. He never talked to me again.
You probably think it was going to be a hefty bill.
So,
you know?
so I want to know, I don't know what your relationship situation is, either one of you. You're on a first date. She orders 16 wings. And we can go the other way, right? Like, what's your response in that moment?
I'm just gonna be like, you gonna eat all of them? And if she say she's gonna eat them all, I'm gonna hold her to it. If not, I'm gonna eat the other half. I ain't tripping. It's cool. It's
So
more
it's
for me.
not an issue for
It's
you.
not an issue at all.
It ain't an issue for me either.
Not an
As
issue
long
at
as she
all.
can cook.
Yeah, it's not.
I feel like
She
this
eat it
goes-
like this, she can cook. Yeah.
I don't think this has to be unique to like the women though. Like I feel like as a dude, when I would go on first dates, I was still like nervous to like eat like that in front of somebody. Like I want.
Nah.
Eating, I work out.
That's true. You're a football player. I'm not. I'm not. I'm
but-
just a pig.
I mean, so you like food?
It's true. I guess that's just who I am, and you should probably get to know it pretty quickly. I feel like
What?
you doing?
At the date? First date?
She ordered 16 wings.
Oh,
She ordered.
if she,
What you gonna say?
it's whatever. I be like, dang.
Whatever you want.
I be like, dang, but go ahead. So for me to snack on later, 'cause I know you gonna eat
them all.
I feel like the first thing you said was getting a lot more attention, which is like, yo, you think I'm paying for all the like 16? You been out here in 2024?
Yeah, 16 wings might be a $30,
right?
$35,
Yeah, me nowadays Wingstop,
$40.
Wingstop, bro, expensive.
That's what I'm saying. On a first date, you expecting me to pay for that much?
I mean, she could have took you to Ruth Chris and just said
Huh.
the most expensive thing.
True.
I'll settle for some wings. Shout out to you, girl.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, let's move on. Let's do it's Bengals week.
Okay. Yeah.
It's Bengals week. You know a lot about Ravens Steelers. You've been on both sides. Is Ravens Bengals?
Yeah, they don't like us. We don't like. I think all the AFC North is rival teams. Man. We don't like each other. It's cold up here. Simple football, it matters. We all have really good defenses and really good offenses. I feel like we have the toughest divisions in the NFL. So with the AFC North, man, Cincinnati, we don't like each other. So it's gonna be a rough game. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be physical, and I'm excited to see it.
It feels like those games have been as big, if not bigger, than the Steelers games the last couple of years. It feels like that has been like.
If you think about it, what they Super Bowl.
Yeah, against St. Louis or the LA, right? Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, I'm old, right? Yeah.
The Chargers are still in San Diego as far as you feel.
I'll be saying San Diego. And then I'll be saying Raiders. I'll be saying
Oakland. Oh,
yeah. They'll be like, no, they're there in Las Vegas. I'm like, oh, damn.
Yeah, I might still call them LA at some point. Like that's how old I am.
Oh wow.
That might be the case. They got Jamar Chase.
Yeah. Shout out to Jamar, man. New Orleans. Alligator. But we're gonna clamp that up.
You've been up against a lot of receivers.
Yeah.
Who's the toughest receiver that you've matched up against?
Justin Jefferson.
Yes.
Crazy LSU guys. They got that deal, man. They're really good competitors, so I'm not scared. Good run after catch. Got to get them on the ground quick. Very explosive receiver, so they're really good.
There's another receiver that people are talking about right now that might be available.
That's what the street's saying.
Streets are saying.
What you think?
But Devontae,
Yeah.
I mean, bro, I like the way our offense looking. Having a guy like him would be great. That would be a great addition to our offense. But if not, oh well. We have the weapons that we need.
Roll with
We
the
have
guy.
the tools that we need.
Fact.
I'm rolling with my guys. You know what I'm saying? We were figuring it out. They're gonna have to pick their poison now, man. We're putting it on film, so I'm excited to see how the rest of this year is gonna go for us.
I love it. That is Arthur Millette. That is Keaton Mitchell. Would y'all make some noise for them coming out here?
Appreciate y'all for coming tonight, man.
Keaton, what can we plug for you, man? Where can people be giving you a follow?
Yeah. What's up?
What you
What you want to plug in? Any
Social media.
brands, social medias you own, your Twitter, like what?
Y'all can follow me on Instagram. I don't even know my handle. What is it?
Underscore
Deuce. Underscore Deuce. The C or two?
That's pretty funny that
Underscore Deuce.
Yeah. Underscore Deuce.
DEU2E.
Yeah.
Ooh, you've been in Baltimore too long. That was a 2 right there.
You did say that though.
That was a 2.
You did say that.
I know. Shout out to my Baltimore.
You learned that from Trippy?
Nah, we ain't doing that, dog. We ain't doing that.
Arthur, appreciate you, bro.
Appreciate y'all.
We will be back in action next Tuesday night. We're not taking a week off this time. We will be at Mother's North in Timonium. So
Somebody's excited. I'm
Yeah,
excited.
fired up. Come hang out with us there for the next Arthur Millette show, pressboxonline.com/Millette. And as always, if you're struggling with addiction, stigma keeps people from reaching out, but there is help available. For more information on what you can do about addiction, go to stopoverdose.maryland.gov. For Rita, I'm Glenn. This has been the Arthur Millette Show.
Sorry to the brain too.